Houston, we have a problem.
What kind of problem? Like trying to drive a toaster through a car wash?
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Cheap Seat Critics podcast. I'm one of your hosts, a Geeky Writer.
I'm Crimson Maroon.
And I'm Sprinks. And hey, if you're listening from Houston, Texas, I could have gone with what's the name?
The
Cape.
moon.
Well, yeah, could have gone the moon. You know what? You're absolutely right, Crimson. I wonder what our community fan base is on the moon.
Yeah, you never know.
But hey, you can find us over on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, Twitter, Blue Ski. We have average out numbers and graphs over on LetterBoxd. We have visual side of things on YouTube and Rumble. We have audio platforms out there on tons of audio sites. I think that's it. And with that, let's roll the intro. And we're back from the intro.
Woo, what a
And
journey.
today, we're covering Apollo 13. And
Ryder,
I mean, yeah.
why are we covering Apollo 13?
Hey, man, I'm so glad you asked. It's because if the audience hasn't picked up on it yet, we're doing a Tom Hanks season.
There we
What?
go. Yeah, we said
I know.
we'd give it away in episode 3.
Yeah, if our
And it's
avatars
episode 3.
and the previous two haven't given it away, yeah, Tom
Yeah.
Hanks.
Truly, yeah. I mean, he's got quite the filmography. We've covered, I think, we talked about this before, 2 movies already on the podcast with him in it. So we decided
Yes.
to cut more.
Can either one of you take a guess at how many films he's been in?
53.
Okay,
What are you
good
counting
guess.
as
Ryder?
films? Are you counting like shorts and stuff, or?
I don't know. This is what I found on the internet. Take it with a grain of salt.
My guess is probably the 50s sound right. I'm gonna go with 40s though. I'm gonna go with 45.
Ooh, unfortunately, Crimson takes the cake on this one. 62.
Oh wow, I wasn't too far off.
Ooh.
Yeah, and
Didn't yeah.
And those are just released. So I guess Toy Story 5 would be 63.
Yeah,
Yes,
probably.
that's true.
Yeah. For what I found, it was to the date of the Phoenician scheme.
One more time?
The Phoenician scheme.
Yeah,
Whatever,
I
it's
forgot that
the-
came out.
Was it Wes Anderson?
I don't know. I just remember the poster.
Yeah, I remember the trailer of Michael Cera walking out of a cockpit with a bomb in his hand.
As he does.
Well, I mean, since I guess we should just dive right into histories, I guess, with that, with Apollo 13 specifically. Unless you have more facts about Tom Hanks you want to throw out there, Springs.
Well,
'Cause
I think I could.
it'd be for me to stop you.
Well, I do think I could save the facts for the facts section, but I guess just a little more on the Tom Hanks season. We kind of unanimously voted on doing filmography roles of Tom Hanks that we didn't see as the big highlights, like the big things he's known for, because these are kind of like the underbelly picks. I think we all agreed on.
Yeah.
So don't expect to see us cover Forrest Gump in this season, Saving Private Ryan, any of the Toy Stories.
Yeah.
mean,
we wanted to do some of his filmography that's a little bit under the radar, and I believe we're covering them in release order, right?
Yes, we are.
Relative to what we're covering.
Yes,
relative to
all of
Warcraft.
the episodes in this season are in release order. So the Burbs is the earliest we got.
And it's true. I having rewatched this film, might be spoiling it for a little bit later on, but I'm kind of glad we covered it. Yeah. But let's go into histories, starting with Crimson.
All right. So this film I've been aware of. I've seen like physical copy at Goodwills and other types of stores. I've never seen it before. I do know of Apollo 13. I've seen documentaries and I just know general about it. So first time for the podcast. And I didn't realize how many freaking famous people were in this movie. I recognized
There's a
almost every character that had a name. Almost.
almost.
I didn't
It's very
recognize
fair, I
Marilyn.
guess. All right. Sprinks, you got history?
Oh, sure do. I have never seen this movie before. This was my first time for the podcast. I have heard of this movie. I thought that from how much I've heard of this movie, that this, and I guess its cast and everything, and being a Ron Howard film, that this was one of the more well-known Tom Hanks movies. I was kind of shocked when I was questioning about it. No one's really heard of it or seen it before. And I went, oh, I guess that's more surprising than I thought. For a time in my life, I did think I had this confused with Apollo 11, the horror movie. And I hadn't seen that one either, so I just kind of like mixed them both in my head. And I guess it shouldn't be too much of a surprise, but I didn't know that this was like based off of a true thing that happened in history. I thought from the beginning of this movie it said like from the book, so I thought this was based off of a fictitious book. And then at the end of the movie where it's explaining stuff, I went, there's no reason why they would explain that stuff if it has no matter
Yeah,
to do with
Yeah,
anything.
It was a
the book
memoir.
they didn't do a very good job of portraying that this is based on a true story, because that book is actually an autobiography. So
It did not come across that way.
yeah,
I didn't get this was a real event until the end of the movie.
Here's
this
that-
might
How
shock
that
the
affects your
audience,
notes.
but
This is so unrealistic.
I mean, that's a
There
kind
is
of
some
large portion of my
changes,
notes
some
comprise of. So
tweaks.
I'll definitely dive into those bits. Because I going into my history, being the huge fucking space nerd that I am, grew up on Star Wars, Star Trek, NASA, and watched a bunch of documentaries. I've also seen a few documentaries about Apollo 13 as well. I have seen this movie before, but it has been how old am I? It's been at least 20 years, I think, since I've seen this movie.
Oh, so you're 1 year old when you saw it?
Yeah.
But thanks for doxing me, Springs. Dang it.
I'm just saying you look good for your
Mr.
age.
Young
That's what I'm
Guy.
saying.
Yeah, I'm gonna die very young. But yeah, no. So I haven't seen this one since I was a wee lad. And I remember liking it, but I was more into the space adventure genre. And this genre was adjacent to that, but it wasn't really my niche. So I don't know how many times I saw this. I think I might have seen it a couple times, but it's been a very long time. So there are like only 3 scenes in this that I like properly remembered only the images of. Um, and so also not be the first time like you two, but very very like thin on the remembrance. And the only reason I knew it was popular within its time is because other people in my grade watched the film at the time, and also when I was in like kindergarten, I remember talking to other kids who had seen the film. Um, so I know it got around, but nowadays I agree with you, Spriggs. This film feels like it flew under the radar, which is kind of crazy to think about retrospectively.
Yeah, I did not expect that from what my experience of hearing this was, and then people around me talking about it. So
Um, and I guess with that concludes our histories. So we shall dive into the facts section. I'll give the basic classic facts, and then I'll turn it over for you, Springs, to throw out one, because you said you had a few more to throw out potentially.
I have one as well.
Um,
Maybe even 2.
all right. This movie was directed by Ron Howard, with the screenplay being written by William Broyles Jr. and Al Reinhardt. It is based off of the book / autobiography Lost Moon, by Jim Lovell, the astronaut that Tom Hanks will be starring as. It had a release date of June 30th, 1995 in the United States, with a runtime of 140 minutes, with a budget of $52 million and a box office of $355.2 million. I did
All
not do
right.
conversions on that.
Where's the
You made its
sequel?
money. Yeah, where's the
I,
sequel?
I believe we can watch documentaries on the sequel.
Well, Crimson, I'm sorry to
And
tell you,
prequels,
but I think Jack got cancer.
Darn it! What a downer. We'll get to that.
yeah. All right. So I'll start with that, but I'll turn it over to you, Springs, to throw out a fact of your own.
Oh shoot. Yeah. What I have, which I was prepared. So we've covered Big, which from what I found, audience take it with a grain of salt. Found him on the internet. Did not sit down and talk to Tom Hanks personally myself. So Big, when we covered it, was the 12th movie in Tom Hanks's filmography, and we covered League of Their Own, which was 18. Burbs was 14. Joe vs. Volcano was 15. Does anyone want to guess or happen to know what Apollo 13 is?
So those were, what was it, like 86, 87 when those came out, roughly? This is like 8 years later. I'm gonna guess 32. No, 30. I'm gonna go 30.
Okay. Crimson's guessing 30.
Wait, are you asking what movie this is in the filmography list?
No,
Yes.
in his grand filmography. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. You said Burbs was no. Burbs was 13th. You said 14.
14.
Okay, I would guess.
Joe vs. Volcano was 15. League of Their Own was 18.
This is definitely in the 20s then. I'm gonna go with I'm going with Crimson on that one. I'm gonna go with 22.
Okay, well, you got it exactly right. It was 22.
Oh, what? I actually didn't know that. Okay, so yeah. Okay, cool.
Wow, he slowed down in the
So from the
90s.
time
He had a bunch of
from the time of
movies.
Joe vs. Volcano to here, he made 7 movies. Which I know some of the big
Okay.
ones are probably Sleepless in Seattle and Philadelphia.
Very fair. I'll throw out one of my facts that I collected for this. The zero gravity scenes were filmed on NASA's Vomit Comet aircraft, where they actually trained for zero G. So the zero G looks real because it is. That's what they do for training.
I'm not surprised.
Yeah, they wouldn't have had the
Yeah,
effects to make it look this good if it wasn't actually what
Yeah.
it was.
If there is
They did-
something I know and give credit for Ron Howard, is if he wants something to be looking a certain way, he can achieve it.
Yeah, I think they built the sets on the aircraft. And they did 600 plus dives and flights in the aircraft. And that resulted in there's no stock footage for those scenes because obviously that costs money to use that time in the air. So the Houston we have a problem line was actually incorrect from the script. It was okay Houston, we've had a problem here. But they couldn't go back and just refilm it because that costs money. And I think it turned the line into something a little bit more iconic.
The line's better. But what's
Yeah,
in the film is a
exactly.
better line.
Can I add
Yeah,
to that
exactly.
fact a little bit?
Oh, please.
No, you cannot.
Yeah. This is the section.
So something that they did change for the film that doesn't match history is that it wasn't Jim that said that line, it was Jack. So there you go.
Yeah, that's right. I forgot about
Kevin
that.
Bacon is not the poster boy for this movie.
No, and he'll be a
That is-
discussion point I
that's true.
have when we get to cover it.
Trust me, he'll I'm gonna drop a fact for him after you go, Crimson. So you guys said you got a fact?
I do. So it's more of an observation than a fact per se. But halfway through the film, I don't know why it popped in my head. I'm like, oh, this is the same time space, 25 years between when this happened in 1972 when it came out, the movie came out in 95. The same distance between right now to when we had 9/11. And I'm just like, wow, that's kind of a weird thing to think about because that doesn't feel far away. But when this came out, it was the same distance away. Very interesting.
Yeah. I mean, that might be why the film was done, because it's still relatively fresh in the public consciousness.
Hmm.
Quarter of a century.
Yeah. All right, I'll jump to another fact. The film obviously portrays Jack Swigert in a very specific way. However, Jim Lovell said in an interview that the real Swigert actually wrote the malfunction procedures for NASA's command modules, and therefore knew the machine incredibly well, and was more than capable of piloting the mission. So that is definitely a deviation the film takes liberties with. Um, yeah. Do either of you got other facts you'd like to jump on?
No,
Do you, Crimson?
no, it was just
Okay.
the Houston may have a problem and the observation I had, 25 years.
Fair enough. Sorry, I might have stole one then.
I only have one more. The last fact
All
I
right.
have is for a film revolving around space, it is unclear if Earth is depicted as the capital planet in this film.
The capital planet. Nice.
That's a little funny. All right. All right. Bill Paxton, Tom Hanks, and Kevin Bacon were all very proud of the fact that they never were sick on the NASA's vomit comet. The cameramen weren't so lucky. So the vomit that Kent, not Kent.
Bill Paxton, Fred.
Yeah, Fred threw up. Was not obviously it was not real, but also he didn't throw up on the flight.
Well, that's pretty cool.
Yeah, they did a good job. I do feel for the cameraman though. The cameraman must have been in constant pain.
That's what they signed up for. I'm sure they had some waivers they had to sign.
Yeah, definitely. When the real Jim Lovell saw the film, he found the CGI work so convincing that he firmly believed that the filmmakers had uncovered some hitherto unseen NASA footage.
Interesting. There's some good and there's some bad CG in this.
Yeah, I think. Yeah, I'd agree with that. I think they do a good job portraying. It's good enough to do its job. I think most times. In some scenes where Earth can be seen from the windows of Apollo 13, it is one of the photos taken by Jim Lovell and Bill Anders on the Apollo 8 mission.
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
And I guess my last one, so we don't linger in this section for too long. In the commentary track, Marilyn Lovell comments that Tom Hanks exactly portrays Jim Lovell's mannerisms and style of movement, which is exactly the type of thing we would expect from Tom Hanks.
Wouldn't have it any other way.
All right. Well then, I suppose we should jump right into coverage, unless either of you have any final facts to give.
Nope.
Which I think you said you guys didn't. But doesn't hurt to check. You good, Springs?
Yep. I only had that last one.
All right. Our coverage today will be in the 3-act structure. We'll be doing popcorns between the acts because it's it's on the thicker side for a movie. And we will start with Crimson.
All right. Can I start with an overarching question?
Of course.
All right. So both of you, but we'll go with Ryder first. What do you think is the biggest negative about the film?
Ooh.
Ooh. Ooh.
I
Good
have
question.
Yeah, I know. I have some nitpicks about character stuff, but most of that is Okay. Actually, I can break this down into 2 categories for me. So I have nitpicks when it comes to the characters and how they're portrayed, which would fall under my subjective. I do, however, think some characters needed some more build up before the mission begins. Swigert being Jack being an example. Those kind of bothered me a little bit on the objective area, but it's kind of hard to pinpoint off the top of my head what my biggest issue is right now.
Crimson, are you looking for more objective or subjective?
I was leaning objective, but if you feel subjective, you can give that instead if you want. So I guess Sprinks, you can go next.
I know it's kind of a toss up between the two because I have two examples that come to mind, but one is definitely leans more objective and one's more subjective. I guess objectively, I think there need to be more scenes or connections with Ken before the launch.
Interesting. Okay.
Because him not going on the flight doesn't seem. I feel like there needs to be more emotion. There's the one sit down talk where they're around the chairs, just like, "Hey, you might have measles and get us all sick," and he's just like, "Oh, tough call to make." That's it. I feel like there should be more. Maybe like Ken at home, struggling, or maybe him getting the news first. Um, something on that. And I just feel like there needed to be more character with Ken and his connection to Jim and the team than that one little scene.
Okay. And might as well, since you have one for each, shoot out your subjective one.
Yeah, this might be a slight hot take. The acting.
Ooh. Okay.
There are a lot of big name actors in this movie, well known people. The acting overall in the whole movie to me is just good. Just
Nothing
a blanket
impressed
good.
you.
Nothing's
Yeah.
impressive. I would not recommend this movie. Anyone who's like, "Oh, Bill Paxton's acting," what would you recommend for like a good, like calling him a good actor or Tom Hanks is a good actor? Like, I would probably not recommend this movie to anyone for looking for that.
Side question: what would be your answer to the Bill Paxton question? What would be your movie of his good acting?
Probably Twister.
That's not saying a lot, I guess. Huh? I don't know. I don't see Bill Paxton as a high end actor, but I mean he's a known actor.
To me, the best actor in this movie is Ed Harris.
Easily, 100% would agree.
He has the most emotion conveyed on screen. And I know, Ryder, you go on about like actors like expressing through the eyes, and I feel like this film really tries to capture that a lot of times, especially with Jim. They just don't sell me. They all seem to be very blanket stares.
I can see that. I'm sure we'll have examples crop up once we get into the deeper stuff.
Yeah. I'll say, just since we're on the subject of the acting real quick, this film did win the Screen Actors Guild Award for Outstanding Performance, which is funny you brought up
From
the
who?
acting. The Screen Actors Guild Award.
But for like just
So it's for the
overall whole
cast,
movie, outstanding
not
performance,
it
the whole
Yeah,
cast.
it's for the cast. Yeah.
I might be snubbed. Who they go against?
I don't know what came out in '95.
Toy Story came out in '95.
Yeah,
This was not against Toy Story.
Yeah. And I guess my answer to my own question, I would say being held to historical accuracy. I think it's its biggest nick to it. Because
Yeah,
I know a good amount about space stuff. Not as much as Ryder, but I know a fair amount. And I know some of the procedures and trainings astronauts take. And they are what did I say? Peak.
You said feek.
Yeah, I said peak. Peak mental strength. They are taught to be very composed during stressful situations, not to be drama farms, which we kind of have a couple moments in this.
There's some films that are definitely dramatized for the purposes of this being a film, not necessarily like an accurate recreation of the story.
Yeah, and I've heard some of the audio that this event took place because of the documentaries I'd seen, and they're very just matter of fact, plain voice. I'm more animated now than they were.
Yeah, but Crimson, would that be entertaining?
No,
Your
which
three
is why I'm
main
going to get
crew
on
being
to this.
stoic.
The second part of this is because it is dramatized, it's a little enhanced. They try to throw in character growth when there wasn't any in reality. They were just people doing their jobs. They're trying to get Jack and Fred to get like a rivalry to then their buddies, their brothers by the end, and it doesn't feel earned by the end. And we'll get more into the relationships between these
Yeah.
characters because they're not all treated equally. So I think that is part of the biggest issue is them dramatizing it sacrificed the characters.
I was very vague about my character nicks, and yeah, that's pretty much what I agree with in terms of uh separating my what they're trying to do with the character arcs in the story, and also trying to separate my history, because I'm looking at this as not as my as a lover of space and history, but I'm trying to look at this as a film, like as a piece of the art form. So I do have to separate the adaptation of history from that a little bit when I'm doing that. And so I went into this expecting them to dramatize some things, and I guess we'll get into the execution of that as we go along.
Right, well, that was my
You want to
first point.
flip it on its head and go the opposite direction with that question, Crimson?
Um, sure. What was
What is the
this
biggest
film's
strength of the
strength?
movie? Yeah.
Um, well, I just went, so I guess back to writer, and we'll do the loop again.
All right, fair enough. I think the film's biggest strength is watching everybody go into problem solving mode. Um,
Oh,
because
what Mission
yes,
Control does?
there's yeah, well, not only Mission Control but also Apollo 13, because they go into their own problem solving mode. One of the things I like is that they're already ahead of Houston, moving into the lander before Houston gives them the directive, because they're also doing their own thing because they're trained for this. So I like seeing uh, characters and situations that they're trained to deal with, and then uh, doing their work to the best of their ability. Because that's kind of, in a way, a payoff to the setup of seeing them train earlier in the film as we're staying with the team and growing with the characters a little bit. Obviously, we'll talk about Jack a little bit later on, and Kent a little bit later on. But overall, that's kind of what I like. So I like when Ed Harris also pulls aside the NASA team. All right, how are we going to get them home? Do we turn them right now? Do we, slingshot them around the moon and they throw that around? And how Ken Stutz is brought in because he's the best pilot with that specific ship. So he's the one running all the simulations, trying to figure out how best to solve this particular problem. So everyone's contributing in their own way. That's character oriented, and I very much enjoy when films get to do that.
Okie dokie.
Right, Springs.
For me, the biggest strength of this movie, I think, is its depiction of the time period. It looks like 1969, 1970 for the time. And everything else looks good. Like, to what people, like the outfits and the attire and the technology and all that. But every single shot of Maryland in this movie looks like it was filmed in the 60s.
Yeah, I do think they did a good job with that. The house, the clothing, uh, people,
The
the
daughter being
community,
a hipster.
the community. People don't interact like they do now. Back then,
Invite the neighbors over?
yeah,
No,
it
that's
felt
not really a
like
thing.
a period piece.
It's yeah, it definitely feels like that. I'd agree with that. Definitely points on setting.
And then mine would be pretty similar to Ryder's, but I'll say it less eloquently, and it's just how smart the film feels. I feel smart having watched it. I think they did a good job doing that. I don't feel like they babied the words to make it more understandable for audiences. I can see a lot of people being like, I don't know what the problem is here. What just broke? What's going on?" Uh, so I do appreciate that. It didn't feel handholdy for the audience, though there was some, like the
Yeah,
toaster analogy that was brought up. but overall, it was pretty
Yeah.
digestible.
The only hand holding stuff for the audience I think is typically justified too, because when uh like when Tom Hanks is explaining to his son, how something, or Jim is explaining to his son how something's gonna work, something works, like the booster rockets and everything like that. Uh, I do feel like stuff like that was very well contextualized for the film. So yeah, the film does a very good job of not feeling like it's handholdy without necessarily needing to get too far into the technical.
Well, I think they did a smart job on how delivering it, because anything that's to do with the mission, being the people on Apollo 13 or people in operations, they aren't handholdy. They aren't, but the film depicts the news as the ones breaking it down. So you kind of get a separation in the film of the news giving the baby talk, meanwhile the experts are actually sounding like experts. So I did think that was a good. I do believe that was a good choice. That's the words I was looking for.
I agree.
Um, and that's all right. Spriggs, why don't you jump somewhere?
Sure, I think it was a little bit of a missed opportunity where they probably could have done it. Um, it started off with the opening credits with Tom Hanks's name and showing Tom Hanks on screen, and then it showed Kevin Bacon to Kevin Bacon on screen. I'm like, okay, nice little pattern we're going here. So is Bill Paxton going to walk through that door and then Bill Paxton's name on Bill Paxton? No, Tom Hanks walked through the door, and then the rest went. I'm like, kind of maybe a little bit of a missed opportunity for the beginning text of the film's credits to match to the actor on screen.
Editing nitpick?
It just it's definitely subjective. No, it's clearly subjective, but I feel like it
Okay.
would have strengthened kind of just like a hook of the film to match the look, because it does do it twice. And it's not just like just Tom Hanks is like the leading actor and everyone else is like following, because it follows into Kevin Bacon next.
Yeah.
But
Okay.
the other thing that I guess feels more subjective of like a loss on it is that is a long opening credits. Like you get to the very end bit of like Tom Hanks like with his wife Maryland on the lawn chair outside before you see directed by Ron Howard. Like it goes on for a while. You kind of go through like 3 scenes before you get to the end.
Yeah.
So I feel like they're all that time. I what they do in those 3 scenes, I guess important, yes, but with the first one just being Tom Hanks or Jim just driving home, definitely could have been other things of the other characters around in the events of what's happening of the moon landing.
Yeah. I think I'm in the same boat. I think it works functionally, but it could be improved with some tweaks here and there. Um, I'll jump to the narration itself because, as I've said many times before, opening credits and opening narration is the chance for the audience to talk directly to the word. Sorry, the filmmakers and the writers to talk directly to the audience. I think they do a very good job giving you all the relevant information, giving in a little bit of the drama with the death of Apollo 1, them burning in their cockpit and stuff like that, and feeding into like the both the celebration of the moment in that time period with Neil Armstrong about to walk on the moon, with the other astronauts who are watching proudly because they were the backups for Neil's team and stuff like that. So I think that they do a good job of both introducing the world and then also immediately introducing the characters grounded in their environment.
I agree. I think they packed a lot in there. That's pretty meaningful. I'll bring up something
Go
that
ahead, Crimson.
kind of bugged me, and I still haven't decided whether I think it's an objective or a subjective thing, and that's the words that pop up on the screen saying 3 months prior, 3 weeks, day 5, whatever, the pop ups. They all said the dates until a certain point, and then
Oh, day 4.
they dropped the year. So then it was just April 10th. Like, okay, why are you dropping the year? You had the years on all the others. And then the days just turned into day blank instead of giving the literal day. So I found it inconsistent with itself. I don't know. What do you guys think about that?
I get what you're saying, and it's easy to catch because it's a lot of text on screen to just two little blurt, like a little thing. But I think at that point, it is clearly smart enough for the audience to pick up that it's literally just the next day, and it's already been expressed what day it is.
I think it. I'm okay with it. I think because it's the year stuff is relevant for the larger time skips, and the dates are relevant for the larger time skips. But when you're only moving a couple days ahead in time, I think it's I think it works. So like once you're on the ship, right? You're on the Aquarius or Apollo 13. Um, I think it just the days are fine because at that point it's more about you're not really time skipping because they're trying to just get the astronauts home at that point. So I don't think they need to do the larger dates because I think the days are in of itself implies more tension. Like they might not survive this in quotes, that sort of thing. I think it adds a little bit more tension. So I would agree that they're inconsistent with itself, but I don't view it as I guess as a problem.
So I'm looking at the timeline on my notes. So it's where the ballpark of what I'm going with is, so you have April 9th, 1970, 2 days prior to launch. And then the next one is April 10th, 1970, 1 day prior to launch. The next one that pops up um, that's different is day 3, April 13th, no year. And it's not just day 3, it's day 3, April 13th. And then the remainder of them are just day number. So the April 13th without a year is by itself. I don't that's the outlier. I don't know why that's there.
Yeah.
I don't
It
know.
might just be it just might be what Spring said. It's just that they expect you to keep track of the days now because it's
Well, then why have that? Just do day 3 like all the other ones.
yeah, like I said, I don't know. I like I said, I do that I just shrugging. I got nothing for that one.
Okay.
Is it like a cushion? Do you think like a grace
Maybe.
between where it's just a day versus the whole date?
I don't know. I don't see
It
much of
could
a
be.
purpose for it. Is day 3? That's not. They don't get to the moon on day 3, right? It's day 4. That was their expected arrival date.
Yes.
Yeah. So I don't really see the significance. Yeah, I've talked myself into it being a nitpick. There we go.
Yep. Sounds like you got hit with a nitpick there. Yep. What I'll go on something is I understand that the space crew have their uniforms. I don't get why everyone in Mission Control is wearing the same clothes on day 7.
Well,
Did
they've
they
been
literally not
spending the
leave?
nights there.
Yeah, Mission Control has been in Mission Control for a week straight.
You've been seeing them. I mean, there's a shot of them sleeping in like an office room. They're just like cycling, taking turns sleeping so that they can work out all the
It's
problems.
it's an all hands on deck thing. They're not leaving work. I think I'm fine with them still being in their uniforms, relatively speaking.
I could believe their loved ones coming over and being, here's some extra clothes for you, but
That I can believe. Getting some clothes, going to a bathroom break, changing clothes, and show like a little thing of like a cycle, and then like Gene telling them like, "Come on, hurry up, we got to get this problem solved." While people are shuffling in and out of the bathroom.
it's possible. I don't have too much of an issue with it because I didn't look at everybody's issues. The wrong word, but I didn't see too many people's clothing in this, so it went by me if every single person has the same clothes or some of them do.
I think Gene ever changes his clothes.
No, he also doesn't sleep.
I'm not
Except he
convinced.
has
I'm
to
not
sleep.
convinced Gene left work or slept. The man's a robot.
He's a robot. But because so much research was put into this, you had NASA, you had the people that were actually on Apollo 13. That just might have been a detail that a lot of people just didn't bring clothes or didn't have extra clothes with them.
I don't know. I kind of feel a little bit. I mean, they bookend it with the whole narration at the end of the movie kind of thing. But I feel like this movie could have done a little bit of like when the credits roll, it shows like real footage or facts that they got.
Yeah, before seeing some real footage, like on the side next to where the credits are or
Yeah.
something.
It would be interesting to see like the actual broadcast that they filmed for
That'd be
the
something.
you know the fake broadcast they film in the film for going on television. If we saw the real version of that, that would be cool.
Yeah.
I'll jump to. Uh, I think this is just a product of its time period. It's fine, but and I found this more funny than anything, so I don't know if I don't have a problem with it. But obviously, the Christopher Columbus line doesn't age very well for
The Great Travelers.
um,
Yeah, I suppose
yeah,
not.
the Great Travelers doesn't age well, but it's
At the
of
time
the
of
time period.
1970, yeah.
Yeah, like I said, it doesn't age well for the audience today, but it's so which is why I was found it amusing.
I mean,
But
he
obviously,
still
for
was a good
1960s, it makes perfect
traveler.
sense.
He was a good traveler. He was just a bad guy.
Yeah,
The
that's
achievement's
why
still an
most people
achievement.
wouldn't list him as a in the quote unquote great travelers.
Mm.
So it's like I said, I don't have any objective issue with the line. It's just it's a funny little thing that technically doesn't
Factually.
age well,
Yeah.
Yeah.
or it's a period piece. Take your pick. uh, Crimson.
All right. So I'm sure maybe one or both of you noticed, but during the launch at 35 minutes and 1 second, the flames. I don't know why they did a reverse
Yes,
shot. Why did
I
they do
got it.
that?
I don't know.
I
I was very questionable. I'm like, why is this a thing?
that could have
Yeah,
just been cut. They already had a shot of it going. I don't know why they put that in there. Just to
I
prolong
fully
it?
agree.
I agree. There was
Was it
also
to, is it a situation where the score was made before the shots, so they had to make it longer to fit with the time of the music?
Maybe. I would have just preferred them to use the shot twice instead of a reverse shot. Because there was something spliced in between it. It wasn't consecutive. Uh, but yeah, this random reverse shot not only is off putting because it's very glaring, it just doesn't make sense.
It's also not. Yeah, it's not possible. It's not a thing.
Yeah.
yeah.
Would you say it's the
I'm
most fictitious thing in the whole movie?
Uh, yeah, because it's not possible.
Yeah, I would say it's not physically possible. On that note, is it just me or is the weird CGI goo that's like falling off the rocket when it's launching that looked really off to me?
It was
Right, because
I
the
pretty
think
CGI in
cool.
most
this
of
movie
the
looks bad.
I think there's some
no, I'm not gonna
good
no
stuff
no
out
I think
there.
I think it's predominantly okay to good, but I think the thing that looked terrible to me was they had this weird particle effect of like debris falling off the rocket it was launching, and I don't think that I that's the one part where I'm like, okay, I don't know if there's debris here. So
I thought that was like
I
ice
mean,
shedding off of it.
that was ice shedding off of
I
it.
think that was ice. Uh,
That's even weirder. I think of this. Uh,
I don't
if
understand
that's
why
ice.
the launch would have pieces of it, the own ship, like falling off.
That's what it looked like. It was like stuff that was glittering on the.
It did look more solid than ice. It wasn't as opaque, but I don't know if that's just how much they had for CGI at the time.
whatever
Yeah.
it was, there was a lot of it.
Yeah.
Whatever it was a lot of it, and I think it would be worrying because if it looks like it's pieces of the ship, and I'm like they're losing their hull this early.
Yeah.
That's a little
Also, it
worrying.
should be falling, not kind of floating while it's shaking downwards.
Yeah, I mean the one in space makes sense. Like the debris cloud that followed Apollo 13 for a while is actually real, but not for this. It doesn't work for this.
Well, something to possibly
I
look
agree.
into. I read it as ice, so I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, it could be. I would still find it weird that it's ice. The rocket does not stick that far above the ground.
Yeah, they're in Florida.
Yeah.
in April. Yeah, I don't know. Probably something sciencey. I don't know why they would add it otherwise.
Um, that's true. Well, for the sake of the film, it's going to go down as a nitpick for me because it looks like pieces of the hull, and that's kind of important. Um, but if it has something to do with history, I'd be interested to hear what it is. I'm not sure that he gets whatever it is getting across to the audience, though, considering our discussion of it. Um, and I guess that was me piggybacking off of a point. Sprinks, you got a point you want to jump to?
Sure do. I did not watch it necessarily like a hawk, but did Marilyn get her wedding ring back?
Uh, in history, in real life, she did, yes, because that actually happened. She did lose her wedding ring and got it back, but I don't actually know if she got it back in the film, or at least they don't show it.
Yeah.
That was one of my. I think I'll label it as an issue. Is the wedding ring? It did nothing for the story. Sure, it's
I,
historically accurate, but it
There's a couple things like
doesn't
that.
come into play. She's not emotionally distraught, and she's frantically panicking. I need to contact Jim. I need to tell him. There's nothing happens past that scene, so it
No,
seems
it's just
like
to build up
fluff.
like the only thing I see of is like another part of Jim she's losing.
I saw it as more of the whole 13 bad luck trend because the car breaks. There's a few things like that that happen. That's kind of how I viewed the loss of the wedding ring. As I viewed
Yeah,
it through that lens of
the
just the
car
random
breaking
stuff that
down
was
I
going on.
thought had to have a reason, and I saw like nothing.
Yeah, the reason is that it's unlucky 13. That is the reason it's there. It's the dramatizing
So
that 13 is an
okay, so
unlucky
there's
number.
actual superstition in this film.
I would argue yes. That is what the point they're trying to make is. I don't know if his car actually broke down in history. If it did, then man, it's a lot of this. Jim had a lot of coincidences leading up to Apollo 13, which is funny.
I mean,
Um,
yes, things can happen in historical time to do depictions, but in the events of a film, why show something if it's the situation where it's like something can be um what was the word?
It could be
I guess
irrelevant
boring
information.
or something.
Like he
It
could
could
have
be
had
irrelevant, but
Cheerios for
don't
breakfast, but we don't need to see that on screen.
don't
yeah,
yeah, don't make a shot pointless.
yeah, I would agree with that. I do think like the car breaking down does have a point. Like it's and the writing rings. The point for them is to build the superstition. That is the point of them. I I don't know. You guys kind of sound. So correct me wrong.
Yeah, but then
You guys sound like it's unjustified. If that's not enough,
no, I'm just going with if that is for 13, then the whole movie is just 13's an unlucky number. Like that's what this movie's selling you on?
it's feeding into that. 13 is kind of the legend of the number 13 itself. By itself, as a number, has always been unlucky. Um, in like real life. So the film is just leaning into that imagery for the sake of the superstition
I find
slash.
that lame.
They do reference it, but to answer,
They
Yeah.
do, but then that if that's like the whole buildup and why these other scenes of bad luck happening is because of 13.
Yeah, I think that's what they're trying to do. I I think they do a fine job in succeeding of it. I wish they justified them a little bit more than just like the simple unlucky conveniences that they typically tend to be.
that I'm okay with the
Um,
car because it's short and sweet, but the wedding ring should have ramifications. That should be more relevant, but it isn't. So that needs to be
yeah,
more than
I'm
just it's connected to 13.
yeah,
So that's
I'm
why I have an issue with
in
it.
agreement, broadly speaking. I think as well. I think most of them serve the purpose that they're intending, be it lame or not. I do think they serve a point when with it being the unlucky 13. So again, car short, sweet, simple. But the wedding ring, I think, needed to pay off, or at least show her getting it. Show us the character getting it back.
Yeah, as I said, she could have it back in scenes, but I just was not looking at her
They needed
hand
to
to see if it
focus
was
on it.
there.
Even if it was there passively, it shouldn't have been a passive thing. It should have been prevalent.
Yeah.
Like she told Mary, "I got my ring
Or
back."
like, or when she sees Jim on the TV, like he's saved, and she covers her mouth from like crying, and it's on her hand. Like that would be something.
Yeah, or she like kisses it or something to acknowledge that it's back. Nothing.
Yeah. Okay. Well, the whole 13 thing I don't like.
Uh, does that fall under subjective for you?
Yes.
That makes sense. uh, um, I'm gonna be honest. I'm kind of neutral on it. I don't know how to feel about it because it feels weird that they're leaning into it, but obviously they're
For
taking
a
some
movie,
liberties with how they're
for a movie
portraying it.
set in historical events, and they're leaning into 13 being an unlucky number, and that's the reason why the O2 went off. When yes, they go examples at the very end where it's like the thing was made 4 years prior or whatever, and it had faults and everything. But it's just like because 13 is the reason for it to occur because everything was still tested.
No, I wouldn't go that far. I think the unlucky the idea of the superstition behind the unlucky number can work alongside of what actually went wrong. But the film does lean into that superstition. So I'm kind of that's why I'm more neutral on it, I guess. I do think it poses some potential problems with, the wedding ring, but
All right.
um,
I have a filmmaking nitpick. Um,
ooh.
so we have Marilyn with a nightmare, and then she wakes up, and you get a zoomed in shot on her eye, which looks cool. It's a nice shot. But what her eyes reflecting does not match the direction she's facing on the bed. It shows like window light and stuff, but she's facing no light emitting sources. So it was a cool shot, but it doesn't really match up where she was in the room.
Good catch. Did not notice that.
Fair enough.
Blink and you'll miss it.
Uh, some stuff on the period stuff. I like that their teenage girl is a hipster, kind of version rebel in the family. Uh, she's annoying in quotes, but she's not obviously not in the film much, so it's not overbearing. But I guess it's just another little thing that places them in history, which I appreciated, like in the time period.
I'm glad they didn't go
But is
too over
that
the top with her.
but is that
Yeah.
actually accurate?
Well, I don't know because I didn't research Jim Lovell's daughter.
It seems like a weird thing that he would allow the film to do, and that's like make up his daughter. It kind of seems a little weird.
Yeah.
That's some weird.
Since you brought up a filmmaking thing that you didn't like, I'll bring up one I actually really did like, which was cutting from Jack getting the call that he's going on the flight right into Kent's reaction to being told he won't be going on the flight. Um, it's a nice juxtaposition. Uh,
I wasn't a fan of how Jim handled that because he just said it was my decision when you really could have just said, "Hey, I tried, but ultimately it was you or the team," and then that would be more understandable than just, "Yeah, I cut you." I mean, he handled that
I yeah,
very poorly.
I had to sit on this, and I think it's him ultimately like because he's the team leader. He's their team leader. I think he's taking the blame and taking responsibility because that's what a team leader would do. So, but I agree, it does feel a little weird because it's coming off of his last scene, Jim's last scene, being arguing with his bosses over this. So
Yeah,
it works with Jim's character, but I would say the flow is wrong. There needs to be something else in that scene, like something in between where the bosses say bring him, like, we'll tell him, and then Jim takes responsibility and says, no, I'll tell him. You know, I
Yeah.
think that's the scene that's kind of missing to kind of bridge the gap that you're talking about, Crimson.
I do think that would justify it more. What do you think,
Yeah.
Springs, with the pitch?
I think I'm in agreement, yeah.
Because I definitely think the film accomplishes what it's going for, and he's the leader taking responsibility, but the flow of it is wrong leading into the scene. So at least that's how obviously I interpret it.
So is this
Um,
on anyone's damage ladder to any degree? How Jim
I would probably put it as a
handled
nick towards pacing, because I don't really have an issue with the character doing it, but I have more of an issue with the fact that the film rushed to this scene without building it up, and that leans more into Sprinks' point of there should be more stuff with Kent.
Yeah, I don't have it on my damage ladder because I find it believable in what they're approaching with. But I just have it as there should have been more with Ken before the launch. Because he is a character, yes, but he does kind of become more of a tool.
He becomes a side character, because I do think I think there is character. You get character from him, at the end when he's talking with Jack, but you also get the characters like, nope, I don't want anything that they don't have up there. That speaks to the kind of person he is too.
Do you think we needed
True,
more
but
Ken or more
he didn't
Jack
need that line
before the launch?
Oh, Ken.
I kind of feel the inverse.
I feel so. Funny enough, I feel both. We get a little bit of Jack. He's obviously at the party, the house party. He's supposed to be, he's in the backup team. He's the one that when Apollo 13 is walking out of the sim and Ken wants to go back in, Jack is one of the 3 people about to go in, running the next sim, like beside them, and then the backup team leaves and they go back in. So we get some instances of Jack. I would love to have a little bit more, because he's obviously going to be a bigger character than what's expected. And I'm in agreement. I think
like that we don't need more of him.
Yeah, it leads more into the you're breaking up a well-oiled team, so it helps feed into he's the odd one out a little bit.
Yes, and we, the audience, don't know about Jack just as well as Jim and Fred don't.
Almost.
So him joining the team is just as lost as they are. They just know he's capable because we've seen Jack in the movie, as Ryder pointed out at the party, getting, I guess, the phone call that he's a part of the team now, going in for training, and that was changed. Like, Jack has been present around, so we know he's capable to be on this team, but not knowing anything about him personally makes him a stranger to the team as much onto the audience of him, where we know that Ken was a part of the team. But Ken leaving the team, I feel like, needed more strength emotionally of those 3 characters than just one scene where they're all very calm about it.
When you say
Yeah,
stranger
it would
to
have
the
been interesting.
team, do you phrase that as if they didn't really know him, or he just didn't work with them?
No, they know of him. Like, he's a friend. He's at least a friend status in order to be invited over to Jim's house.
Okay. I was just
the beginning
trying
of the movie.
to gauge what you meant by stranger. So okay.
No, the team, no, Jim, Fred, and Ken know Jack. They get that, but he's not a part of their team. He's the backup team. But us, the audience, not seeing more into Jack's life or Jack's training or anything of that makes him that much of a stranger onto us as to them when he's now a part of the team. They all know he's capable, but we don't know him. And I think that works very well.
Ryder, you were going to interject there?
I was going to make a suggestion on what might be missing, or as an idea to kind of, because I'm in agreement that we could use some more Ken before the team is split up.
Especially during the launch when he's by his car. I feel nothing for him.
I think what we should have had before they do, because they're isolated for their training. So I think like the last night before they go into like isolation, I think we should see them not necessarily throw another house party, but maybe the 3 of them go out drinking together. Or something to that effect. So they get to spend more character time together. So they get to rib off each other, bounce off each other. So we get to see the friendship a little bit more. Before they go into isolation and have to, we get the then we can cut to them going into isolation and have to do their training separately from being apart from the world. I think it would be worth seeing something like that. I don't know, like, what I would have them explicitly talk about in the scene, but I think, forgiven what you would want more, Sprinks, I think that would help a little bit in terms of giving him more time with the team and a little bit more of the characters, bouncing off each other aspect.
Okay.
Well, I mean, unless you got suggestions. If
No, that
you want to suggest something.
works. No, I think that's enough. But
Yeah, I mean, it's very specific, right? Like, you want to feel something for this character. So, what would you
yeah,
want to happen in order to make you feel something for this character? I'm only throwing out a suggestion.
being that it's Gary Sinise, and Gary Sinise is a great actor. He can do very good, especially with Lieutenant Dan in Forrest Gump, which was, I believe, the film right before this. Um, if there was a scene of him at home, either watching like the moon landing or prepping or something, and he gets the call of like why he won't be on, and we see through him the emotion of anger that he can't do it, and then saddening that he won't be able to be on the moon, and like all that through him emotionally. I think that to then go into where they're all sitting as a team, we got that of Ken already on his mindset and set for him. And then the two people of his team he's working with saying they made the tough choice, giving that it was Jim's idea to make the call on this. To then give Ken like resentment towards Jim, and like they're, butting heads a bit, but they're doing it very professional. Like, I think that gives enough strength and context to Ken. And then later when he's sleeping, like he's missed all the opportunities to see the accident that has occurred. So then when they're asked like, hey, can you come in? He's groggy, sleepy, he comes to help, but he's not like defiant and like, I gotta help Jim, I gotta save the team. He's just like, we'll get this done, we'll fix it, which I think aids more into him still having that feeling for Jim, but he's now there to take care of his team. And I think if that building block was to set to begin with, would have strengthened that for him.
So you
The only
feel like his composure was a wasted opportunity for more character expression. It's kind of what that sounded like.
I suppose it's that thing again where it falls onto like, I get with what you say,
it's
Crimson,
a,
like astronauts are very stoic and they got to be very composed of what they do. But that really sells that the actors in this are very much just saying lines. There's not a lot of expression in it, and even like the fight in the ship between Bill Paxton and Kevin Bacon doesn't feel very strengthened of like them actually losing it or Tom Hanks stepping in to like take care of the situation. It just feels like the acting in this isn't a lot of acting. Everyone does a fine job. It's not a bad portrayal of anything, but it's not, I don't know, not
nothing's
expressed.
impressing you.
Yes,
Yeah,
nothing's impressing me with the acting. The only thing is Ed
yeah,
Harris crying. That's it.
yeah. I think, interestingly enough, my take on that is more. It's weird because I it's a hard balance trying to balance, let's say, the active professionalism that the characters are the characters that these characters are based off. They're based off of real people, right? So they want to keep the levels of professionalism as accurate as possible, but they also want to. They don't want to do that entirely because obviously they want to dramatize bits. So I think I hear what you're saying. Um, I think once he's woken up and he's there and he's like on the job, I think that's where I'm fine, where he should be the most professional. But like if we get a scene of him in his house by himself getting that phone call, we can see the reaction and then we can cut from that reaction or whatever it is to the more stoic version we see of him at work. I think that would be your best way to kind of squeeze in what you want. And then obviously maybe him watching at a distance from his car. Because the rest of the time, I think what you're looking for might intercede in what the film is trying to portray, which is the professionalism that they can get into.
Yes, because the car, when he storms up and he's like, "Oh, tough decision," and leaves, and like very like just kind of mute in their aggressiveness towards each other, and that him and a car to see the launch just is portraying to me that he didn't have enough to actually go up to his team at the launch site and say goodbye and be there for them. Um, and maybe give them fear, like, you got the measles, stay away, or whatever, make them, I don't know. The character motivations to come across of Ken doing his actions doesn't feel 100% clear for me. And I think if there was more of that situation of his mindset prior to then his relationship with Jim on screen would go more into his actions, not only for being an astronaut and what he does for the team, but for his relationship with Jim and even Fred there. I mean, I don't necessarily think Ken and Fred need much more than what they already have, but
It's hard when you're making a film that's based on true events. Because, as far as I'm aware, at least with this film, most of the scenes are pretty accurate to historical events. They just heighten people's reactions to most
yeah,
of
but
it.
Ken got the call. That's got to be true. That he got the information like, hey, we did your blood test, you got the measles. You're not going on this
Yeah.
ship.
Yeah, well, how he got the call. Well, I mean, with how the film portrays, I think he didn't get that call. Jim just told him, like they sat him down.
Yeah. No, how the movie depicts it is that Ken was sidelined so Jim can have that scene in the office. They gave that strength to Jim's character, where Jim is the main character of this whole movie.
I mean, it's hard to say because
It would have been shocking.
they would go to the leader first, being Jim, saying,
yeah, but it would have
"We're
been
gonna have to
shocking
bench him."
too if it was the meeting. If we got the depiction of Ken first, of like getting the call, and then that meeting, and then Jim was the one to reveal not only to Ken but to the audience of like, I had to make that call.
Well, that
So
might not be
Jim
what
knew.
happened. What we get of
That's what happens in the movie.
what we get of this is that Ken had a feeling something was up because they were doing tests on him. That's what we got of his knowledge of the situation. And then you have Jim telling him, "You got booted." That's what we got laid out. So
Oh, you're going with Ken never got the call.
yeah,
His
Yeah,
information
I don't
was
know
from
where
yeah,
you
Jim.
got the information that he got a call. I don't know where you got that.
Yeah, he never got a call. We were talking about adding something like that in there particular, or at least my interpretation of it, Sprinks, is that he was not that he never got, because I don't think he ever got the call. Jim is the one that told him. But I thought the point of you bringing that up was adding that in as one of the scenes you're adding in for particularly just for drama.
Gotcha. Jim was the call. Did not pick that up. That
Yeah.
feels much weaker of a scene now.
And then that's the sacrifice of trying to make it potentially, because we don't know what is heightened or not in this film. We weren't there, but assuming they're trying to stay accurate, the way the movie portrays it is, Jim's the one that told him the information. Ken didn't know. He just had ideas that something was up due to his blood testing. That's all the info that was provided. So also, Ken by his car outside could have also been reality.
Going, come on, like he's still cheering them on. He's just doing it from a distance.
Yeah, but he didn't go to the site where everyone else is.
Could happen in real life. I kind of
Yeah, I said I got nothing else other than he chose not to do that. I don't know why. Don't necessarily need to know why. But he's still there to watch it.
Oh, you don't need to know the character ramifications of why he did that?
Is it relevant to the story being told?
It's relevant to Ken, the character in the movie. Which then becomes him helping them.
That's the professionalism of his character. That's irrelevant to what that is.
I disagree. No.
You think it's in Ken's character to be petty, and they're like, "Hey, Ken, we need your help." And you're like, "No, they kicked me off."
Not to say no.
Your interpretation of him being at the car instead of the launch site is being contextualized as that you view that as him being petty, right? That's how you're viewing that now?
Yes, because of the news from Jim.
I'm not there. Yeah, I gotta. If he was petty, I need more than that. I think he chose that spot based on just the context of the film. Maybe he doesn't want to. Maybe he's there to avoid the press because the press could swarm him if he was at the launch site.
Yeah, but I needed an explanation from that he doesn't like press.
I can infer that.
From how? Where do you get
Well,
that he
I mean,
doesn't like people?
he got kicked off the NASA flight. Why would he want to face the press? I don't need the fact that he hates. He doesn't need to hate the press. He might just not want to face the press.
True, could be.
Yeah. I mean, like I said, I'm just giving an interpretation of the scene because, as you say, they're not going to handhold you. We kind of went over one of the things we liked about this film, but that means we're gonna interpret scenes differently.
So I guess the final part, talking about this in particular, Sprinks, are you leaning this is them trying to adhere to history or poor writing?
Crimson, I do not know. I don't know what in history happened with Ken.
So, okay, let me rephrase it. What are you
can
going
go
to be
off of what's
applying
in the
to
film.
your score? Because you have to pick something. What are you applying?
I'm applying in the film of this depiction is Ken is an underutilized character whose motives aren't fully shown on screen, and that is an objective hit.
Okay.
Because that's the right end of the character who's been used as a character throughout the film. He's not like a sideline, like a little character with a couple scenes before Jim takes off.
Gotcha.
He is far more important than Jim's own kids in this movie.
Certainly, especially the one that's in like military school or whatever the heck that was.
Yeah.
Yeah, he exists. That is
Get a haircut. He's in school. That's all we get.
I understand it's for the sake of the history, but he's probably a removable character.
Yeah, I didn't even know he existed until he's in class. I'm like, what? Who's the little kid?
You remember the beginning of the movie where Jim's like, get a haircut?
He makes an appearance at the beginning of the movie, but that's it.
Yeah, I was writing something down. Don't remember him.
Removable characters in historical accurate movie is very tough.
It is interesting.
It's an interesting prospect. Well, I guess we'll revisit that.
In the film, he has no impact on the characters. He doesn't change the plot.
No, he does nothing.
He's got nothing. But I would also argue he's not
Jim's
a character.
Other son has more.
Yeah,
about the fear of the hatch.
Yeah, and that
even though I feel like that's
a decent
kind of written.
That does feel written.
Yeah, but it's very written.
That does.
It doesn't feel natural.
Yeah, that feels like there was a setup and a payoff that doesn't generally happen in reality like that.
Yeah, are you scared you're gonna die? All right, time to launch.
Yeah, I guess concluding the point, Ken, I think, is an underutilized character, but I think we just agree on the fundamental part that's being underutilized, Crimson as Sprinks. So, which is fine. All right. Do you want to jump us elsewhere, Crimson?
Sure. The shot of Marilyn, like in her yard as the jet flew by. I mean, that kind of
movie moment.
Well, yeah, movie moment, but it also felt fluffy. This is not a short film. It's like 2 hours and 20 minutes. Yeah, like we didn't need it. Fluff. Felt like fluff.
I see.
Like them walking to the hangar, and then we cut to her in her garden with the plane flying over. It doesn't really have much of an impact other than she cares for Jim, and we already know about that. So that
Hiding the runtime, yeah.
I think we could use that to better the other characters, like Ken.
I guess that's an interesting thing. Writer, your facts, you still have them?
I can pull them up, yeah. What's up?
What did you say the runtime of this movie was?
140 minutes according to the wiki page.
Got it. Okay. Got it. That, yes. My confusion. Sorry.
What did you think?
I thought you said 1 hour and 40 minutes.
No.
I'm like, no, this movie's over 2 hours. Gotcha.
Yeah, so pretty lengthy film, but there are some parts that I feel like could be cut, like the car breaking down. We already discussed why it's possibly there, but I think that could be cut. I think her looking at the jet could be cut. Maybe add this time to other aspects of the film.
Well,
Yeah. Have more scenes of them dancing in space.
Get rid of the ring scene since there's no payoff for it.
yeah. That one's definitely like I get it's historically accurate. They want it there and they want to feed into superstition, but the car does that and it's faster and it's simpler. This one requires a payoff, so I'm kind of in agreement. I think we can cut the ring scene. I get it's historically accurate, people, but we're here to break down the
Don't know.
film.
I don't know.
I mean, have
It's
we covered a
The ring
historical
shows.
film
Yeah,
yet?
the ring shows that it's not just affecting Jim; it's affecting people around Jim. But why just his wife? Because that's the only story they have from history to go with it in the film. They have nothing from Jack or Fred or anyone else of bad luck occurring.
Well, they had to have interviewed people that were close to the situation, not just Jim. Because they also had contacts with NASA and stuff. That they had to have had a lot of research put into this.
True, but there's nothing like one of Fred's kids tripped and got injured because of 13 or something. Like it's only through Jim. I guess
Oh,
that's because it's like he's the main character of the movie.
Jim's
But
yeah, I was like,
yeah,
we don't really get the
it's
other
it's
families.
it's predominantly just Jim. It's Jim is the main character. Uh, it would be stronger if we got that. I think if they were careful with it, because I think if they overdo it, it becomes a bit tropey.
do you think this movie would have strengthened if it actually depicted three main protagonists versus one?
I mean, I'm
If
always
they,
execution over everything, but
yeah,
on premise, I kind of like what we have here more than if it was split evenly.
yeah. Conceptually, it would be interesting. But again, yeah, I'm just gonna echo what Crimson said. So I'm same page. I like what they did. It would be cool if they did. I would be interested to see that version of the film. But given what we have, I think Jim being the central character is good enough around that. And you, Springs?
Um, I don't know. I think it falls onto that historical accuracy thing. Like they had the most information about Jim to run with to make as much of an entertaining piece as they could. So they just stuck to Jim. Maybe Fred and Jack and maybe even Ken, for this matter, didn't have much to them themselves to go along with the story.
Or it's just stuff they didn't feel warranted runtime. Because if we had to add other characters that weren't part of the mission, that would just add more time.
Who?
Uh,
Ken?
no. I mean, you're talking about
Both of you said you wanted more
you
Jack.
said their other lives, so I'm talking about like Fred's girlfriend or wife Mary, and Jack's girlfriend, who we just see in a towel at one point. You're talking about fleshing out their lives more, right? That's what you were talking about.
No, I'm talking about the superstition add-on is only depicted on Jim for the events of what's happening in Apollo 13, rather than the whole team.
And how is that going to happen to them through their other people? I suppose they don't
Show
get
that it's through the
eyesight
whole
stuff.
team. As I brought up the example, like one of Fred's kids tripping, or something like the girlfriend has to move
Yeah,
somewhere,
that's what I'm
or
saying. It
something like
adds
showing bad luck.
other things that we'd have to cut to, which would eat up more time. And I don't think that's the main focus of the film, of the unlucky 13. I think that was just an aspect they threw in there.
Yes, but they do it with two instances. That's only focused on Jim.
Okay, well, two instances doesn't mean the whole movie has to revolve around it.
Well, then take out the wedding ring because it doesn't mean
I
anything
already
other
agree
than
with
the
that.
historical accuracy to it,
And
and
get rid of the
replace
car.
it with either Fred or Jack.
No disagreements. I already talked about cutting that stuff.
Yeah, but replace it.
Yeah, I also said that. Totally for it.
I think we're on the same page. We're just talking past each other for a second. um,
I mean, it's not Jim's
I'll,
fault that the oxygen valve went off. It was Jack's doing of running the test. But we have nothing of Jack other than like, quote unquote, don't know him well enough opposed to anyone else, which I think is actually a strength. But Jim's bad luck is what's causing the bad luck onto Jack. So it's all just like the conduit is Jim.
I think you and I are going to differ throughout this if you're so heavily involved in this bad luck thing, because I'm
That's my
not.
that's a gripe I have with this movie. It's the depiction on the superstition of 13.
Okay. Well, I'm not going to have a lot to bounce off of that because I don't prescribe to it.
Crimson,
Alrighty.
what's your take on the car breaking down?
I can think that they have hints towards stuff without the entire film encapsulating it. I think, yeah, the car in the ring could be Bad Luck 13, but everything isn't about Bad Luck 13.
Okay, so what is your depiction of the car breaking down?
Removable fluff. That's what my view
It's
of the
just
car
fluff.
breakdown is. That is my view of it.
Okay.
Is that
Alrighty.
the info you need, or
Um,
did you
yeah.
want more?
Did I want more?
Yeah, I didn't know if you wanted to break
No,
it
I just
down
want to
more.
know because Ryder said like the two depictions of the rain in the car for the superstition aspect, and I'm like, well, I didn't see that as I saw them as kind of pointless because there's no follow up to them, and I was wanted to get your point of view on them. If you saw them as bad luck, if you saw them as something else, if you just him just filler, like
As they are, I see them as filler. Ring has
they
potential, but they didn't utilize it, so filler.
yeah. Like I said, I think there's a point to them, but I would still say it's technically speaking a filler. I'm kind of that's how I would label it as well. It is building into the superstition aspect of 13, but that's not really required for this film. They just chose to do that, which is why it comes across as filler.
And I guess one last thing for it, Sprinks, since you brought it up also on the with Jack, and he had bad luck because he caused the problems. Going forward on the podcast, are you ascribing everything as bad luck or not?
God no.
No. All right. Just seeing if you were throwing that as hypotheticals or if you're applying it.
Oh,
So
no. I'm going off of what Ryder pitched of the whole superstition in the film depiction of what it could be with bad luck, but it's all from the point of view of Jim. So Jim's bad luck situation is occurring onto Jack then in that instance. I'm just going from that perspective of what it could be. I think everything with the bad luck is, as I said, a gripe with this movie because I think that breaks away from historical accuracy and they're just throwing in things that are like, oh yeah, his car broke down on his way and we don't know, but that actually happened and she lost the wedding ring. That actually happened. But that has no point further in the film other than like, oh, something's happening with mechanical devices with Jim, and hopefully this astronaut ship trek goes fine. Or oh my gosh, Marilyn's losing a part of Jim that maybe she won't get him back or something like that. I think that's probably my best occurrence of what those two scenes are, but it's very just there. So I believe that one can see it as the superstitious route or the fluff route or what I just pitched route. It's like they all seem feasible because they're not very strong scenes.
well put. I agree with
Yeah,
that
I'm in
assessment.
agreement with that. Thumbs up.
Yes, just because I gave an example does not mean I'm sticking stone onto that example.
Yeah, I know. You
No, just
the reason we asked is because for us and possibly for the audience, you were coming on very strong about it. So that's why we
I'm
asked
very
for
strong because
clarification.
I absolutely despise scenes in any source of media that are pointless.
mm,
If
that's why I was
something's just
clarifying.
there for nothing,
Yeah, I
that is bad
yeah,
on the time being made, the editing to be in the film. I think
yeah.
that's one of the
I
biggest
don't
detriments.
yeah, I don't think those scenes waste time, but I would agree that they're very weak. That's kind of the page I'm on with them. Um all right. Uh I guess with that I'll jump to a point. Um One of the things I did like, even though obviously at the scene we talked about her, gardening and seeing the jet fly overhead, that's fluff that can be cut. I do, however, like that after we get the interview where Jim's not going to be flying anymore, we do get him to see us take that one last flight in a jet because he wants to not fly again after he's done with Apollo 13, based off of what he says in the interview. So there was a nice little character nugget, I think, in that for Jim.
Yeah,
Did you want to stop
that's
flying
what
or
I had
just
on.
stop flying in space? Maybe I misinterpreted it.
I think he said stop flying in general. At least that's how I interpreted it. Based on him going to fly a jet for the last time.
That's what I
I
got.
could Yeah. I could be reading
Okay.
that might be what happened in history, but based on what just this film, that's how I interpreted that scene. He's taking his last rocket. He's taking his last flight in a jet on Earth because he wants to capstone his career flying with Apollo 13.
Yeah.
Okay.
Crimson, if this helps your prior question of like, what do I see continuing with the podcast of this episode and
Mhm.
of the film? My best thing I can give you is this is not a documentary. This is not found footage shot of what was actually occurred. This movie is depicted as in the opening credits based off a book of an autobiography. And being that the words based off of are used means they can go the route of fictitious details. So I will hold the film to that.
Okay.
It's a dramatized version of history. So
Yes. If that helps.
as will be the other historical event depictions that I'm sure we'll cover one day.
Oh, maybe. We've covered Captain America, First Avenger. And that's a little different than actual World War II.
Yeah, I wouldn't call that based off of a historical event. It's inspired by a historical
yeah,
event.
I would love for Captain America to open saying based on history.
That would have I would have a wildly different view of that film.
Man, if only we could cover those black and white movies he made.
Yeah. He's filmed.
I know. Hey, we could have a podcast with the Red Skull over his films, because he saw all of them.
Yeah, he's a pretty good
Yeah.
commentator.
For a second, I'm like, how the hell you think we're gonna get Hugo Weaving on here?
No, we're getting
the character.
we're getting his replacement from Endgame.
Oh, from
or
Endgame.
Infinity War
Yeah.
or whatever it was. No, yeah, it was Endgame.
Both. He's in both.
Is he? Yeah, he is. From The Walking Dead. I don't remember the actor's name. I'll talk about the dream sequence. I was in the middle of writing a nitpick complaint about it. By the time it ended, I'm like, oh, never mind. Because I thought it was Jim having a nightmare that something could go wrong. I'm like, okay, Jim, you're an astronaut. You know what can go wrong. This is wildly absurd that some random screw builds up momentum out of nowhere, smashes into the equipment, and throws glass everywhere. And it's just very extra.
So you fixed it when the wife woke up.
Yeah. So once it was her, I'm like, oh, okay, she doesn't understand it. That's fine. But if it was Jim that woke up, I'm like, nope. He would have dreamt something realistic happening.
See, and this
so it was almost an issue.
We can see this differently than Crimson can because Crimson doesn't dream.
Yeah.
I think even if it was Jim, it's fine.
Yeah, I think even if it was Jim, it'd be fine. I would want a little bit. If it was Jim, I would still have a nitpick, but it wouldn't be higher very high on the list. Because my nitpick for Jim would be like, maybe they had a sim that went really bad in a highly specific scenario, and that's the one he gets nightmares about, or he gets nightmares about Apollo 1 because that's what he was talking about with the sun.
Ooh,
Something would need to lead into the nightmare.
I feel like fire would be involved or something if it was his nightmare.
I actually do have a nitpick with the scene, being that it is Marilyn's dream. Is this depicting that she's been inside a ship?
I mean, they
in order to know what it looks like.
I could have given her
think
a walk
wives
around.
can get a tour. Yeah. I think she would have seen an inside or the interior of one, or at least the model of one. Because I know that NASA has a bunch of models of their ships that they can give tours to and stuff like that. So.
But are you saying
being
modern day or of the 70s?
I wasn't alive then, and they were probably looser then than they are now. They probably would allow
that's a good pitch.
people to go on there.
Yeah, I think I don't think they would allow normal people to get on there very often, but I think an astronaut's wife might be able to see the interior of her ship.
Okay, that's just something I had. I'm like, oh, so she knows what all of this looks like.
Yeah, and she probably sees pictures of the interior, I imagine, if nothing else. Well,
I'd say it's believable. That's where
it's
leaning.
Believable. Yeah. All right, we spent quite a bit on Act 1. How are we looking on Act 1 notes?
I think I have like 1 or 2. left.
Around the
All
same
right.
range. Yeah.
Okay. And in that case, we'll just I'll go, and then I'll pass it down the line to Crimson and then Sprinks, and then back to me,
All
and
right.
back to Crimson and then Sprinks. Um, I One of the things, uh, again, is showing the professionalism characters, getting into things where we went into Kent, so I'm not gonna go. I'm not gonna read. I keep calling him Kent. I don't remember if he's Ken or Kent.
I think it's just
Ken.
Ken.
It's Ken.
Okay, it's Ken. Okay. I do like that. Uh, when something is like minutely off in their simulation, he wants to run it again with the main crew. So they're about to leave, calling it for a day, but he wants to get better at it and perfect it. And it leans into the professionalism of his character, but it also leans into kind of the hard work that astronauts really do all the time to try and get everything right down to the right detail. So again, it's leading into one of the great core strengths of this film, which is again professionals being allowed to be professional.
Well, yeah, you got to be very dedicated to be an astronaut, and for him to be above even them shows how even more dedicated he is. So
Yeah,
I think it was a good thing to show.
All right, Crimson.
All right, I'll talk about I think my favorite shot of the film, and it's when they're taking off and you get this shot of the camera going downwards while the arms are detaching from the rocket. I thought that was pretty cool looking, though not the best CGI in the world. I don't think it was that bad there. I think one of the worst was when they were getting on the rocket on the bridge. That looked terrible. But the shot itself I thought was pretty cool.
Being that it had CGI usage, that's probably why it's not coming to mind.
Okay.
All right, Briggs. Point.
I'm going to guess that it was Ron Howard's decision, being the director, that at 37:21, when after the launch they're deciding on something. I didn't write all the quotes or anything of that of like what was being depicted, but I think it shows Capcom 1 talking, and then someone leans in from out of, not exactly out of frame, but hidden behind someone's body into center shot to deliver a line. I think that was great. Whoever's decision that was to have him lean in um for the follow up of the conversation, I think that flowed with the movement very well, opposed to like a wide shot where they're both in frame, or like a pan shot where it goes from one to the other or something. Like the choice of that, I think was very good.
Very similar to what you said about my camera shot. I don't remember this guy leaning. So,
Yeah, I think it's Capcom 1. He's in the background and he's on his console and he's talking, and then there's a body on the left hand of the screen, or of the frame, just standing there, and this guy leans in and centers his head to the center shot to answer. It's not the guy with the glasses. It's someone else, but delivers his line with being the main focus of the shot, which is taken away from the guy who was previously in frame. I don't know. I just thought like that was very well moved.
might have to re-see it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it's not coming to mind right now, but yeah, it very much seems like a directorial thing to do. Directorial.
And Ron Howard's pretty top tier, I think, with anything he does. He's very diligent, at least with what I've seen of his. I'll add that asterisk. I've not seen all of his stuff.
He's made more than I thought. Or
I had no
guess more
idea he
recognizable
was
than I
tied
thought.
with this until I saw his name watching it. I was like, what? This doesn't seem like his kind of thing. Usually he's like good with comedic stuff.
Comedic stuff.
He made Arrested Development.
Yeah, he was. He did. He was
Yeah.
part of that.
Yeah, I guess I mean, I don't have anything to add, so I'll go into my last point. I quite like that Ed Harris gets, a tailored like suit for his wife. Because in the film, it comes across to me as he gets one for each launch. Like it's a luck thing for him. Or his wife just gets him a tailored vest for each launch. I always it's just a little detail I really appreciated.
Yeah, I think they pretty much explicitly stated that it was a traditional thing she does. That
Yeah.
she makes it, and I would imagine that's probably tied to a real thing. But it is a nice inclusion.
It's considering Ed Harris is going to be our main character on the ground for a while. I do think that's a good way to introduce him. He's introduced by being an important part of mission control through a tradition that his wife gives him. I think it was a nice, smooth aspect of it. I liked it.
Yeah.
I was just reminded we've covered a Ron Howard movie on the podcast before.
Which one?
You want to take a random guess?
I love you, Beth
Your hint
Cooper.
is you probably won't get it.
No idea.
You're probably right. I will not get it.
Love you, Beth
Ron
Cooper.
Howard directed Willow.
Oh yeah.
The show or the
for
movie?
some reason I always connect
The movie.
the
The movie. The movie.
Yeah. I always connect the Willow to George Lucas for some reason and not Ron Howard.
Where George Lucas.
And I know George Lucas did. Yeah.
Ron Howard also directed Splash, which was Tom Hanks's fourth film.
Too bad that one wasn't very good. Spoilers for that film.
You didn't like it.
That hair
the
on the
Disney
back
Plus
that they did
version.
later. Oof.
Yep.
Crazy.
Ron Howard directed the 2006 Curious George movie. I didn't expect.
I can believe that. His most well-known thing's got to be The Grinch, right?
It's pretty big.
Yeah, it's probably the Grinch. Oh man, I guess technically he directed Star Wars: A Solo movie.
He did.
Oh,
Hey,
Not
maybe
one
the
of his
maybe that's why I think it's
if
an
I
okay
ever
movie.
watch it, maybe I'll be like, yeah, the direction's good.
Hey, that train heist was pretty solid. Okay.
Well,
I guess
even with Solo, I mean, Ron Howard
I feel
achieves
like-
by
I mean,
making it look like a Star Wars movie. He makes things look good.
Indeed. My last point will probably be, I guess, the press conference or what have you, the photo op, while they're all lined up in their astronaut uniforms. I think something they did overarching very well is escalating the public's involvement or care in it, because this press conference, very small. There's only a few reporters there. It's not like the whole room's full of people like the Neil Armstrong one and yawn, blah, blah.
It's a hint to what's going to come later that the world is bored of astronauts going to space.
Yeah, and it's something they do pretty consistently. I mean, the TV didn't even broadcast the darn thing, yet somehow it was 3 million less than the previous launch, but we'll cover that, I think, in Act 2. So, yeah, I just think they did a good job with breadcrumbs of how the public view this launch. And then they're kind of
All I'm
more
saying
blunt
is
with the
I was a
first
kid.
investor guy. He's like, is there going to be another one? Because we already beat the Russians. I mean, so.
Yeah. I mean, all I'm saying is if I were someone growing up in this era or a kid in this era, I would have been pissed that I couldn't watch the 13th launch or the 13th broadcast.
But would you have even known about it? Unless a comedian was talking about it.
Yeah. That's. I mean, I'm a space nerd. I trust I would be a space nerd back then too. All right, Sprinks. Last point of the act, sir.
Last I have is the composer for this film is James Horner.
I know
Fucking
that
pretty
name.
well-known composer.
Yeah, I recognize him too. Actually,
He did like Turning Red or
Either
something,
of you two. What?
right? That was worth it.
Did
right
you ask
there.
if he's turning red?
It said you did Turning Red, right?
No, he did not.
That's a joke.
That's a callback.
Yeah, that was Michael Giacchino. Uh-huh. Yep. No, do either of you two know what James Horner is known for? At least what I would say he's known for.
He's
Like,
known for
harps,
Avatar mostly now. right?
Woodwind instruments.
Oh, Crimson's like right on it.
Oh, like
Horns.
instrument wise.
Yeah. I guess woodwind instruments is pretty solid. I think James Horner is very known for incorporating a pan flute in almost all his scores.
Hmm. Did this have it?
I'm curious.
I don't even remember the music.
That's what
in
I was going
this.
to pose.
This music's very
Do you
forgettable.
think? Oh, gasp!
The music
I
here is
think one of the-
serviceable.
I think one of the best things about this movie is the score.
Yeah, I don't remember it at all.
Oh, well, I guess in that case,
Unfortunately, yeah. Go ahead.
I think I did find it. Which is, I think it's at 1 hour, 42 minutes, and 18 seconds.
And was it his best use of the pan flute?
No.
No.
I don't know what his best use of the pan flute is. I mean, Avatar is pretty well known. I think Willow, pan flute isn't the instrument that shines. Maybe Jumanji.
Maybe. I kind of agree with Avatar. I feel like that one's pretty standout.
I just think that's well known. But the pan flute really shines at Jumanji when the hunter's walking around and that's the only instrument playing.
Yeah, I mean, I think Avatar's probably the one he's well known the most for, but I think he did the Titanic, he did Braveheart, and then he did
Oh, Legend of the Fall.
Troy.
There's definitely pan flute in that. I think it's when Brad Pitt's character is running after his brother in the war. Pan flute plays there, I think.
No, I know he does it in Troy.
Is
Because
it
I've
when
watched Troy a few
You
times.
get shot in the heel. Pan flute breakout then.
I think it's in Hector's death, actually.
Oh,
Spoilers for those of you
Yeah, I
who
was
haven't
about to say
heard of it.
spoilers.
2,000-year-old
I haven't
story.
seen it.
sorry, old movie. Quote unquote
3,000-year-old
historically accurate.
story. 3,000-year-old story, and movie.
Yeah. I can't remember if Brad Pitt's wearing like a watch in one of the scenes or something. They goof up in that movie, but
We'll move on to Act 2, which is pretty much the launch is over. The wives are leaving to Jack and Fred having an argument over
The
the
oxygen.
yeah.
Oxygen tank.
They start over the oxygen tank, and that leads into the CO2 scene. And we shall start this act with Brinks.
there's a couple good shots in this act. And I got a couple of them written down, like back to back to back. 52-56, when the ship outside the exterior of the ship is rotating, and then it cuts to the interior of the crew, and the camera rotates with the ship in a line to then be kind of straight on with them. I thought that was a good movement between shots. Kind of a transitional usage. Next one I have following is 53-32. There's a dolly zoom on Ed Harris, I guess when he gets the news that there's a problem. And then next one I have is at 55-39. I don't know the character's name, but he's the mayor's lackey in The Grinch. The one with the glasses and kind of the gap between his teeth. That guy.
Okay. Yeah.
I didn't know if either two you had his name in this movie.
What's his
Write it down.
job in this?
He's a part of Mission Control.
Oh,
I think he's specifically
I don't have his name.
he's systems check monitor. So he's like
Yeah.
don't have
The
anything.
glasses
for-
guy.
Yeah, glasses,
Yeah.
gap in the teeth, the
Yeah.
bald with the hair on the sides.
Yeah, I don't know his name. I think this is
Okay.
I think in another movie he was a control guy. Funny enough.
Oh, I feel like I've only seen him in like 4 things.
He got typecast as mission control. It's funny.
But the shot of him with his glasses and the reflection is of the screens, and he takes his glasses down. I think that was
Yes,
digitally
it was
done.
really good.
That's cool.
Yeah, it was definitely digitally done, but it was really good. I liked that.
But those 3 shots just back to back to back.
He was Kate in Cat in the Hat.
Cool.
I wouldn't know that, to be honest.
He's also in
Thanks for giving me a Cat in the Hat
He was the
fact.
tree hugger.
Awesome.
Yeah.
It
Check
will
out our
haunt you
coverage of
forever,
Cat in the Hat.
Springs.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thrilling.
Our 100th episode.
So maybe you heard it here first, but certainly not last. Ron Howard, good director, has good shots in the film.
Yes, he's a pretty good guy.
Yeah. Um,
Decent actor
I
too.
do. Yeah, yeah. As it turns out, I do. They build up because of the sim that they're running with Ken on him like docking appropriately with the lander. Now, one thing that this film does dramatize, if they couldn't dock with the lander, the moon mission doesn't end there. There were other pilots that were capable of doing it. Being Jim and Fred. But again, for the drama, I do think they portray the scene well as a kind of like it's a bit of a payoff that he can pull it off. Maybe not as smooth or as well as Ken can, but
Yeah, and I think they did a decent job of relaying that he feels pressured. And I think that's mostly through the acting of all three of them in there.
yeah. The cuts between them and the mission control, because things are tense at mission control too, as it always is. uh Thoughts on that, Crimson, or thoughts on that, Springs? Sorry.
Oh, just you're right. Trouble at
All
mission
right.
control.
Crimson.
All right, something don't know historically accurate or if it was heightened for the film. I'm leaning heightened towards the film. Is when balding glasses guy that we are referring to states it's a quadruple failure. That's not possible. It must be an instrument problem. I feel like that's heightened drama. That's impossible. I mean, it could have happened.
Yeah,
Don't know.
a lot of the what's it called? The scientific what did,
Scientists.
oh, yeah, I was gonna say a lot of this. That's not the word I was gonna use, but I was gonna say this, the jargon. That's right, the jargon, because jargon's just a descriptor for like what you say for in place of technical stuff. You can get away with a lot of jargon if you're writing a science paper and stuff like that. This one felt like unnecessary jargon almost, because the film does a really good job with a lot of its technical language. So just that specific line of dialogue, I also agree. Nitpick.
Yeah, I think the fact that he said it's impossible is the heightened part. I feel like he'd be like a quadruple system failure. We need to check that now. Ask them to check their systems, something like that.
Yeah,
They're more pragmatic.
that might even if it's like that must be a systems failure. We need to have them check. Not the whole it's impossible bit. I kind of agree. That's the heightened part of it, probably. Uh, Back to you, Springs,
Let's see here.
or add on if you want.
No, that's fine. Just trying to see what else I have really with this. I do think I guess CGI look, I believe it's CGI of the quote unquote constellation Urine, looked fine. A bit of a funny moment.
Yeah.
Mhm.
It's a portraying something that they wouldn't have in the 60s or 70s. So it's adding a bit of realism to the film.
Well, I think the best CG in this is when it's stuff not in motion. Like a lot of the exterior shots of Apollo 13, I think look pretty nice. I think the worst. I might have said that already in Act 1, but I'm changing it to something else in Act 3. Would be their burn, their last burn before the heat shield. The heat shield looked pretty decent. The the burn that looked terrible.
Yeah, when they're making their turn, their final adjustment and turn.
Yeah, their final adjustment.
That's very fair. I again, I talked about this at the very beginning, so I'm going to talk about it now. Once the problem, you know, the the ship goes boom or pop, however you want to describe it. I do like they just run down the systems checks, like they're just working through possibilities of what's wrong as they're realizing, and then it takes them noticing the venting atmosphere out in space.
That one also felt a little dramatized of them all just standing still in disbelief, not actually trying to solve the problem. We're leaking something, some sort of gas
I
problem,
thought,
and they're all just
I
standing
thought they
there.
did. Yeah, I thought they did look through, or I thought they did a good job of going through like the motions of trying to, restart things, set things up,
No, they
that sort of
did.
thing.
I mean, the
But
moment Jim says there's something leaking outside, then we cut to control and they're all just motionless in shock.
Yeah.
That's the part I'm referring to. Before that, yeah, they were very proactive, problem solving.
oh, okay,
But the moment he says they're leaking, then everybody just stops. That's the heightened
that's
part I'm talking about.
definitely a movie moment. But also, they're all trying. I feel like it in a weird. It's definitely a dramatized bit. I think it works because they need to listen to the astronauts first and foremost, since they're all technically secondhand.
I,
But
th- I it is a movie moment. I think it works because at first they're all lost because the comms have fully broken down and their readings are all off and they don't understand why there's like so many errors happening all at once. And the squall of all that trying to figure out to when they actually get information on something, the pause for the information does center them or like pinpoint their focus on the problem. And I
Yeah,
guess that it does give reason for a pause. I guess that would make sense to get in the information they can from the event actually happening live, but it does play into a movie moment.
hmm that literally everybody
uh,
stopped, not just a few or even most.
Well, there's a problem. Everyone's going to be attentive to listen in on the situation at hand, but as soon as they say one thing, someone should be running off because they're like, "I know this." At least one person, because then they're like,
yeah,
"Oh, I got to fix this issue
yeah,
as fast as I can." And while they're giving more information, they're getting more answers to mission control of like, okay, maybe it's this or this, and then they figure out what it is eventually to solve it. But having all hands on deck for the one problem and everyone's just waiting till they get 100% of the information through, I think does go into that movie moment because that's kind of lazy on mission control. They should be problem solving if there's a problem immediately.
Yeah,
yeah. It's definitely dramatized. I think it fits into a slightly unintentional comedic moment, which was as soon as they hear that they're leaking something, that moment of pause ends and they immediately just all get right back to work. I subjectively like that, but I recognize the objective issue.
I put the nitpick for the movie moment situation onto it of that, but it doesn't hit my objective really because I feel it is fully believable.
all right.
And I
Fair
don't
enough.
mean that to contradict itself in what I just said, but
Yeah, I know what you mean. Like it's very, very minor.
yes.
Um, that doesn't register on your scale. In which case, I obviously going to ask you the questions, Crimson, since you brought it up.
I have it as a nitpick. It doesn't really have much of an impact. It is just a heightened moment and a movie moment, as we said. So it's just a nitpick.
Um, I'll jump to this is historical accuracy that I really appreciated. The middle engine booster went out during the actual launch.
Well, yeah, I mean, a lot of this is pretty accurate. Even the helicopter that picked him up at the end is accurate. I forgot what it was
Yeah,
called though. But the one with the frog symbol was a real helicopter. That had a it was a pretty iconic one that got lost at sea at some point in the 70s. I don't remember, but it's a thing.
yeah. Might have been the one to retrieve the Apollo missions most of the time.
Maybe that was their
Yeah,
primary duty.
yeah. And then obviously the middle engine booster going out. If you're interpreting the film in that like unlucky 13 way, there's another one, I guess.
Yeah, if you're going with that lens.
Yeah. The projector?
Hmm? Projector?
uh,
Never mind.
Oh, yeah.
I
That
thought that was just
no, I
like the
gotcha.
projector going out.
That was
Just another
funny.
13 like
I did like that scene. That was pretty
I
amusing. Where he just
mm,
tossed it aside.
yeah, to use the chalkboard and it just
Yeah.
if you're going with the
Listen,
approach of this is the things are happening because of 13, that adds into it.
yeah, like I said, it's definitely a valid interpretation of the film. A lot of them are just, thankfully, like not super like harmful, but I agree most of them are weak. I enjoy the Ed Harris one just because he just shoves it aside, and let's be honest, I think the chalkboard is visually cooler anyway.
You get more space to work on as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can agree. The chalkboard definitely gives more of a tone.
Something that didn't add up to me. Maybe you guys can explain it away. I kind of touched on it in Act 1, but it
I'm no
wasn't
rocket scientist, so
wasn't in Act
be
1.
gentle with me.
All right. Well, you're lucky. It has nothing to do with that. The comedian guy that was talking about the viewership, how it had 3 million less than the last launch, doesn't make sense to me because they didn't air the launch. It shouldn't have had any views.
It didn't.
Yeah.
Oh, like Apollo 12? Is that what the reference is to?
If that was the previous launch, he just said 3 million less than the previous launch.
Yeah. Not the launch of this crew, just the last aired launch.
Yeah. That this had 3 million less than that, but this wasn't even aired, so I don't get it.
Well, was the launch aired, but everything inside wasn't? Like when they're recording inside, that's not on air.
Didn't the paparazzi guy talk about nothing being aired? Like the networks didn't think it was worthy.
Yeah, the networks
That's
were
what the
pushed them
guy
all
said
out.
to Maryland. Yeah.
Yeah.
Of like, do they know they're on there? It's like, no, they think they are, but
Alright.
they're not. Because it's not.
Alright.
I think that is fine in that context, but the launching of the missile of the ship, I think still could have been aired. What they should have done was, I guess, cut to Blanche watching it, so she knows it was on TV. But
Who's
then to get
Blanche?
more because it's slotted in.
Oh,
His
that's
grandma.
the mom. That's right.
Yeah.
I never wrote her name down.
Yeah. Based on the context provided by the film, I would say that is an inconsistency considering they imply that nothing was aired, given that Blanche never got a chance
Um,
to see her son.
Unless it's just to tell you that there's 3 million who watched the last launch.
Yeah. And again, I think they would be more explicit with that because I could swear he said Apollo 13.
Did not write it down. I do not know.
Yeah. So I would say that's definitely an inconsistency if that's true, Crimson. I but I'm not. Again, I don't know. I I think because it was mentioned, I'll touch on the grandma scene. I do like her bits are more for comedy. Um, but I think they do. Uh, I do think her introduction here as a kind of a comedic character is very nice, especially when it plays into her being a little bit more of a serious character later on when she's encouraging her grandkids, which I really like. Very minor thing, but I do like the somewhat comedic introduction to her getting a more serious scene later on.
Yeah.
Is it Jim's mom or Jim's grandma?
I thought it was mom because I think son was mentioned.
Yeah, she says son, explicitly referring to Jim. So
That's
I
mom.
think
Okay.
it's yeah. Spriggs got a point.
Yeah, I just got a question. What can you run on 1 amp?
You could run a lot more on
Question
it back
on
then than now. That's for sure.
Okay. It's just something so before my time, I don't know the power of amps.
No, it's very
yeah.
strange how I kind of feel like we've devolved with electricity because back then they could do so much with so little. I mean, what was it like the first computer took up like the size of an office and had like 3 megabytes of storage and it filled up an entire room. Yet it was a fully operational computer. Meanwhile, now we have little phones that have a lot more than that, but
We compress everything.
functionally do the same thing. So they just made a lot more stretch. What they can do. Huh?
Crimson, in that comparison of a computer the size of a room and then phones to today,
Yeah.
is you saying we're decreasing in technology?
And optimizing the technology.
Electricity.
Electricity,
Yeah.
yes.
Electricity. Okay.
Yeah.
Obviously, technology is
mostly
progressing. Yeah, it's been compressed down to a phone.
single amps I think would be best for audio related devices. I think that's usually what you can get out of a single amp commonly back then.
I was just running in my head like they can't pass 20 amps of power while solving the problem. But then the guy complains in the office that even a vacuum doesn't run on 12 amps. So I'm like trying to eyeball it in my head, like how much is an amp? Like I don't know how to weigh that. Of the time, they don't need to explain that because everyone in the 70s knows what that power level is. But I suppose to an audience of 1995 theatrically, also probably don't need to explain it. I don't know. I don't think it needs to be explained at all, but it's just like something that's they give hints to how much it's weighed.
We still
I
use
suppose.
I feel like I need to specify because it's going to come up. Amps do not mean like audio amps. Amps mean like ammeter. We used ammeters to measure electricity.
Yes.
So someone's gonna not know that, I'm sure.
Oh, they're not being like, oh, I got 13 amplifiers. Do I need a
Yeah.
14th? It's not that.
Something that was kind of irking me a little bit because they're so power hungry. They're starving for it. They're out of power. And then we have a cassette player or Walkman, whatever it was, with batteries, presumably. I just feel like they would repurpose that and try to use the battery power for something. Even how small it may be, it's still a resource that they didn't utilize or acknowledge. If Jack like
Yeah.
ripped it
I
away
think
from
that
him and like, we need this power, he's like, that's useless. We can't even turn on a flashlight with that. Just let me have my music
yeah,
or something.
just something like that would be nice, yeah. Considering that they make power such a big thing in the world and a big part of the what's going on.
Yeah.
Um, one of my favorite scenes uh, is Jim doing all his math calculations, and then he reads it back to Mission Control, and then a bunch of people like verify and check it.
That was pretty neat.
Very good.
Yeah.
Them using the slide
Again,
ruler
professionals
and
being
everything.
professionals. I really enjoyed that.
Yeah, a lot of
Yeah,
people
it
don't
wasn't
even know
all
what
set
that
onto
is.
the weight of one person. It was a whole team working on it. That
Yeah.
was good.
Again, it makes it feel like the group effort it takes to run what NASA does, or you feel that when that scene, just because it's obviously you get a lot more of it later on, but this is definitely one where because they're directly helping them out this in a way by just double checking and verifying his math.
Yeah, it shows how smart they are. They're not just like people in for a ride. They are scientists in their own right.
Yeah.
Cool.
Okay. I'll jump to Marilyn being honest with her son. Jim's son. We get the cute line as it was at the door, but I do appreciate. For me, that was good parenting because I don't see kids are very intuitive. Typically, they might not understand everything, but they can definitely understand when something's wrong. So I really appreciate that Marilyn was honest with their son that something happened to Daddy.
Yeah, I think that was a good way to bring it up too. Unlike Jim breaking the news to, see, it's been so long as it Ken.
Yeah.
Ken, you've been out of the movie too long. she handled that better with the son than Jim with Ken's firing. Well, not firing, but you know what I mean.
Firing. Jesus
He
Christ.
got fired from the mission. All right, still part of the organization.
All right. Well, Sprinks, add on or jump to another point?
I like the detail that you can see their breath when they turn off all the power, that it's getting cold.
That was something I like conceptually, but in practice, it was highly inconsistent.
It was.
It was very sparse when it showed up. It should have been there constantly. You would see it every now and again.
You should see it when Fred is like trying to sleep, and he's like trying to stay warm, but he's just freezing.
Most of the time, you
Like,
see it is
it
with
should be there
Fred,
the whole time.
which is I like because he's kind of sick, so you'd be running, you'd be warmer.
Yeah, but do you ever see it on Jack?
I don't think I did ever see it on Jack. I don't think I saw it on Jim. I
saw
feel
it
like
on I saw it on Jim in one scene.
Yeah, it's so sparse that I feel like either add it everywhere or get rid of it because it was so minimal. It should really be there for everything.
It should be there.
And I don't know the reasons why it isn't. I don't know if it's a technical
their internal body heat is
limitation or what.
hotter than the room. I don't know.
I mean, remember they're not in the room. They're in for these floating scenes. They're in a plane.
Oh yes,
but it's so
CG. I don't think that was practical breath that was being utilized.
Oh, you think that was CG'd breath?
Could be. I just don't know why it's not everywhere or more often.
Yeah, I'm in to summarize. I'm in agreement. I think it's very cool conceptually, but I do think that they aren't as consistent with it as they should be. It might just be the limitations of where they're filming. They didn't have the money to CGI every breath, but don't know. It's still an inconsistency.
So
yeah, I have that as a nitpick.
As do I. Point I'll talk about is the daydream that Jim has once they're looking at the moon, of him actually landing on it. It was pretty nice. I think they dedicated just enough time to it. It wasn't drawn out, but it wasn't too short to be like, why is this here? I think it was the perfect length, leaving the footprints, dragging fingers through the moon dust, and then going full circle with the thumb covering the earth, just like he used his thumb to cover the moon earlier. Nice little addition. So that was cool.
Yeah, just showed that he really wanted to be on the moon.
I mean, I think Tom Hanks did have good acting there once they told him to shut off the valves because he knew what that meant. Are you sure about shutting that off? Yes, that's our only option. And then he told him, we're not going to the moon.
Yeah.
I think he did pretty good.
We just lost the moon.
Yeah, we just lost the moon.
Yeah. I do think that Tom Hanks is best. He has a lot of good moments in this. I think his best acting bits, though, I think are the daydreaming stuff where he's daydreaming about going to the moon, like watching Neil Armstrong's One Small Step for Man, that sort of thing.
I'm sorry, this might be crazy of me to say, but I'll say it. I think he has a better acting portrayal of his acting chops of what he can do in The Burbs than in this movie.
That's pretty wild. Do I agree with that? No, I don't think so. I think he's just loud in Burbs. I don't feel like there's a lot of range in that film.
Yeah, I'm not going to agree with that. I'm sorry. But yeah, that is definitely a wild take to have, Springs.
Unless you have examples of scenes you think would provide range in Burbs. I don't really recall much range.
In The Burbs, he has caution, he has determination, he has child. I don't know what they call when him and his friend are like, "Oh, you go ring the doorbell." No, you like bickering, anger at his neighbors for about the house, fear being in the house. He has far more range of emotions throughout the movie, The Burbs, and then even like paranoia, like, oh yeah, no, this is the toupee of Walter. We're going in there. Like all these other
Okay.
things played up. Maybe they're a little heightened versus this movie where he's very stoic. And yes, he's fitting the role of an astronaut to do that. But there is nothing really of like the care to Ken, the care to his wife, the moon thing, which you just pointed out, Crimson, which is why I'm bringing this up, is the strongest. But even the blank stare of looking at the moon outside the window, I don't get much from him of his want. That's why they give it like a daydream situation to it.
You had me in the first half, Sprinks. I agree he shows more range in burbs. Doesn't
If
mean that he
someone,
didn't do a great. He didn't put in a great performance for this. So like I said, I was there with the
yeah,
first half, lost me the second half.
that's what I disagree with.
Yeah.
I don't think any actor in this movie gives a great performance.
I mean, I feel like him looking out the window delivers longing. I feel like it's pretty clear.
I think that's the film putting that forward onto you versus the actor expressing it.
I
All right.
I'm just gonna shrug. That's kind of out of my purview. That falls into subjective for me. Hence my usually I'm just working on the writing. So uh, let me jump to I. It's a very very stressful situation. I do like how Jim Kent cut himself off from the rest of the world. So the nasty will like physically have to go into his house and get him up.
I did find that a little amusing, but it's at the crux of a movie moment of he turned off the TV right when the special report happened, which
Yeah,
is a little unfortunate because that
it's
does kind of
definitely for
force the
dramatized.
scenario.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah,
if he had saw the report, he probably would have called him and asked if he could help in any way or would like to know more information, but that never happened because he missed the report. So then they had to break into his house
yeah.
essentially to wake him up. So I actually might file that under an issue. I think it's too
Oh,
big of a movie moment to just pass it as a
Too
movie
big of a
moment because it does
it's
affect.
very very convenient and it facilitates. It delays something that would be otherwise more relevant and important for the characters.
Yeah, it does affect the film.
So
Him missing that like that.
okay, yeah, I'm. Oh, where am I? I might be at. Okay, so yeah, I was gonna remember my order here. I think I'm above Nick,
an
maybe.
issue.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I'm bouncing between Nick and issue. I think I'm at an issue with that.
Okay, maybe I lost it here. Can you rerun this? Like, what is the issue that's being
So
prompted?
what happened is he's watching the TV. Ken is watching the TV, and he gets up because he's irritated and turns it off right when the special report happens, which would have told him the emergency that's happening. And then he goes off to bed and sleeps. Then later they come to talk to him like, "Hey, we need you. There's been an explosion." That is a movie moment that affects the plot because if he didn't miss it like by a second, he would have been like, "Oh shoot, what's going on here?" And then he would have called them, and then they would have asked for assistance or informed him, or he would have been on location. It would have changed the events of what Ken as a character is doing, which is why I have it as an issue because it does affect the film in a
Okay, so you
meaningful way.
both have that as an issue.
I do. Writers on the edge of Nick or issue. Yeah.
Okay, I have it as a light nitpick for the convenience of just missing the news announcement. That's it, because of the weight of historical accuracy. If that actually did happen to the character of Ken.
Yeah, for how I view that, right? I think in real history, I think he might have been asleep at his house because there would be no reason for him to stay up late to watch a special report. So I
It's
feel like that it
it's
comes
too big of a
across as a
scene. Yeah, it's too big of a scene for NASA to go to his house to get him if that wasn't what actually happened.
Yeah. I'm sure he probably just went to bed and the special report thing was just for the
Yeah.
film.
That see,
well, I'm
even
sure it
that
was
I'm not
he was just
100%
asleep. Yeah.
sure on. Yeah. He could have been asleep on his chair watching TV And the report came on, but he was asleep through it.
Well, I mean, that's something
But
he wouldn't even know about while interviewing
Yeah, like,
him.
I don't know what
He
happened
may
to
have been
him.
asleep.
I'll also say it's very very convenient that the film portrays it this way. That's probably why I'm a little bit higher on the scale compared to Sprinks. Um, but I think that it could be something similar happen to history. Like we're just missing pieces, or like we just over dramatized a particular part because this is what this film does occasionally.
I will lower to a Nick. When I said issue, I didn't take into account the historical relevance potential, so I have it as a Nick now.
Okay. Yeah,
Um,
unfortunately, just can't weigh that knowing.
yeah, that was an offshoot of my point. So, Crimson, why don't you jump somewhere?
Okay, so it's going to be an overarching one. I think one of the film's strengths, kind of go back to the first question, is the stakes. I think the film does a good job of escalating or adding a new problem every 5 minutes in a way that doesn't feel too crazy, because they do time skips to just get to the important moments, because we don't need to see the entire trip. They kind of just skip to, oh, another incident. All right, let's move up a day. All right, now the CO2 is a problem. Cool. So I think they did a decent job pacing the stakes to where you're on the edge of your seat, so to speak, throughout. There's always something happening.
Have you it in a weird way? It reminded me of. Have you guys seen Andy Weir's Matt Damon's Martian? The Martian.
Yes.
Yes, I have seen The Martian.
This movie evoked a lot of similar vibes with just, I guess, the story structure to what The Martian is, which is, someone's stuck somewhere and they need to get home. And so you have a lot of NASA trying to solve the problems their own way. You have, like, the people that are stuck in the situation. So in The Martian, obviously, it's just Matt Damon's character. And then for here, you have the three characters are stuck in the situation. They're both trying to get through their problems. So I was making a lot of comparisons to The Martian, funnily enough, in my head because I remember The Martian more than I did this movie, and this movie is very similar in its story structure. I think.
I think that's a good comparison.
Obviously, The Martian's being fictional, and this one being
Yeah,
more on the
that's
realistic
what
side.
I'm thinking about it. I'm like, I think The Martian might be a little more entertaining, but
The
Yeah,
potatoes.
it gets the yeah. I mean, you get the benefit of that being and just a purely fictional story, so you're not having to adhere as much to realism
true.
with The Martian.
But they do have to get science for it to come across as believable in The Martian.
Yeah, like I said,
And
most
it
of it's
has,
accurate in The Martian. So
yeah, but
they
it
like a
also has
lot of
science
what they
here.
discuss. Yeah,
I guess
um,
time period. That's a big thing.
yeah, that's
Martian
also
takes place in what, 2012?
30.
2030?
No,
Oh, it's even future. It's
yeah,
more futuristic. 2030, opposed to
yeah,
1970.
yeah. They're very very similar stories in how they're going about what they're trying to do. Um, but yeah, that's kind of what we're talking about there, Crimson. It's kind of what it reminds me of. I was unintentionally comparing this to The Martian because The Martian's more. Personally, I'm in agreement, Sprinks. I find The Martian more entertaining. But the films are both trying to do very similar things and telling a very similar story.
Yeah.
A story of survival.
In space.
The detail I liked, which goes with the film, is being after the events of like trying to troubleshoot how to solve their survival and get back home. When it's running the calculations of everything in the Aquarius and Fred is doing all this stuff, he is so stuck in routine that he calculates it for two because it was only meant for two versus the three with Jack now being in the Aquarius with them.
Yeah.
And I think that is historically accurate, I'm going to guess, but just believable in the film that is what occurred.
That one confused
I
me
I can't.
because Ken would have been there and it would have been a trio.
The Aquarius was only meant to touch down to the moon with 2 people. So it itself
So
was
he.
only
Oh,
adjusted
I
for
see
the
what you mean.
CO2 levels of 2 people, not 3.
Yeah. So yeah, I'm in agreement.
That
Within the context of the film,
instance, I'm
whether or
like,
not it's
"That's good."
historically accurate, I think it works.
Now how their doohickey CO2 converter thing worked, I don't know.
Yeah.
That's getting
It's what
spaced on
that
real
one.
life to me. Seems
Yes,
too
but I
Yeah.
extreme.
don't I just feel like they made a box with a hose, and they're like, "Okay, this box with a hose will save them. Tell them how to make it," and they make it, but I don't to me, it didn't really depict, like, where's it going to convert the CO2, like, dilution or
Yeah. It would be cool if were able to do a little bit more with, like, I think they had to put it in one of the filters, or like they were transferring it to the main ship's filters so they can get it out of the rover. But yeah, that's definitely based off of reality, which is cool. Um, I do think I personally would have wanted more to see, like, how they affixed it to their ship. And again, they're weightless, might have been limited in the amount of plane jumps that they could do. Um, but and footage they can get, but I would have appreciated seeing, I guess, explicitly what they're hooking it up to.
okay.
But I definitely like the moments where, the NASA crew just dumps all the stuff on the table. It's like, okay, here's what they have. How do we fix this?
Yes. And Ken was very adamant. Don't give me something that's
Yeah,
not up there that they have.
good. Like I said, those details I really appreciate, because I mean that's all you have. So you're running simulations and problem solving with this stuff that you can, uh, that they would have, because that's the only conditions you should do that under.
Right, or let you know, I have one more point for this act.
All right. Well, good point to ask. How are you doing, Crimson?
Well, I'm pretty low myself. I had a lot written for
Got
Act
two
2, but
more.
not a lot to talk about. So probably just one.
All right. We'll do one more each, and we'll start with eeny meeny. Let's go with me. I When it comes to the arguing, because this is obviously something that the film is dramatizing, because the there's a fun fact about it too. Jim was pointing out to Ron Howard that they didn't argue because they were extremely professional, and Ron Howard had to explain, yes, but there's only so many times in a film that you can cut to people just, you know, staring at each other with slight animosity. Because so this is an intentionally dramatized part of the scene. Um, I think they do okay because they did a good job of portraying the pressure that Jack feels, and the animosity that Fred feels. Um, Again, I do think that they diverge a little bit too much for historical honesty for my personal liking, but I think in terms of a subtle character arc that they're putting them on, I think it's okay. Um,
Um,
and I guess that'll be
Okay.
the end of my point. So feel free to add on
for
or
me,
go to your next
I
point.
think I think there is a little objective hit to it because we are to believe these are astronauts. This is a movie, but they have to have people act in their roles as astronauts. So I'd probably put it as a nitpick or nick that they aren't acting like um, astronauts. Though it is to the benefit of it being a movie, like we want to be entertained. But character wise, it's incongruent with their training that they would have done.
Like, if we had seen them, like, uh explicitly get something, like some training that showed more, like, in a level-headed, because we see them pretty level-headed in the training that we get. But if we saw them face something a little bit more with animosity and they still remain level-headed, I would probably agree with you as a nitpick, but I don't think it registers on that for me, just within the context of this film. And I guess Springs, since
Uh,
thoughts.
I'm trying to weigh it.
Yeah, I know it's difficult.
Like an example I could pose is like you have ballet, which you kind of have to maintain a composure unless you're playing a character in the ballet that's a weird character. But your standard ballet, you're a composed, elegant, moving person. But if you make a movie on ballet and this person is anything but elegant and it has nothing to do with what they're doing, then I'd say they don't know how to do ballet, right? Like the profession still has to be relayed with the expert, and these astronauts are experts.
My counter for that, so it's just while we're still weighing up Springs, I'll provide a devil's advocate counter. Is they did this as a means of making the characters more relatable to the audience, because the audience is not all gone through astronaut training, and most of the audience are probably not space nerds, um, but they just are came here to see something entertaining. So that might be the intention, I guess, behind it.
I mean, that's the meta of it being a movie, but that's
Yeah.
kind of beyond what I'm going with. Sprinks, you probably have something by now.
Weighing that, I got it's fine. Again, with the movie based off of book, historical accuracy kind of thing, like it's trying to be believable, but they can take liberties if need be. But I feel like they're really trying not to. Um, so I
Yeah.
don't think it goes on my damage ladder.
All right.
Yeah. Fair enough. And I guess that's the end of my last point. So Crimson.
All right. I will go with a nitpick of my own, and that is, unless I missed it, I could have missed it. I would have liked to have them for them to explain how cold it would be, because from what I recall, they're all just very vague that it's going to be cold. But cold could be 50 degrees, 30, 10. They're in space. I don't have a frame of reference what this cockpit feels. They're
I
not
mean,
growing
you're already
icicles.
wrong because you're already wrong because you gave me Fahrenheit. They're in space. They're gonna give Celsius. These are
Whatever.
scientists.
Um, whatever it may
But it's
be, they don't
yeah.
give anything. So that is something I would like to know, because I don't feel the stakes. When you see Frank shivering, I'm like, is it below freezing right now? Or whatever, 0 Kelvin? 0 Kelvin, you'd be dead. But you get the point, though. I
Yeah,
don't
I
feel the
did. I'm
stakes of
only
what
poking fun.
cold is.
Yeah, it would be nice to get that a bit clearer. I can agree with that. Considering it's an issue for Fred specifically more so than the others.
Yeah. No, that would have been an aid.
All right. Last point for the act
Last,
to Springs.
yeah, last one I have, which I don't. I can see this being nothing, a nick, or a nitpick, or nitpick or nick, like one of those three kind of thing. And hopefully the two of you can help me. Mission Control's eyes on the crew is simply just their vitals, right?
Direct eyes, yes.
Okay. So their two docked ships joined, of the one they set off in being the Odyssey, and then the rover being the Aquarius, right?
That sounds right.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Okay. How does Mission Control identify what to call their location when they're in either ship by off of Mission Control talking to them? When their comms aren't changed? How do they
Um,
refer to Jim as Aquarius or Odyssey in conversations without knowing which part of the ship he's in.
In the beginning, they refer to it as Odyssey because they're in the Odyssey, and they change to Aquarius while they're supposed to be in the Aquarius, I think. Because they move over to the Aquarius. They're told to do that.
Yes, but it doesn't stay Aquarius the whole time. In conversations while the Aquarius is connected, they do say Odyssey.
Oh, okay. I see what you mean.
So
Like,
I did not
when the
because of
ships.
that, it did not make me think because of the rover it's now a new name. Like the whole thing's a new name. It's two separate names.
I see. Okay. Um, when until the rover is disconnected or it becomes its own thing, I think they call the whole ship the Odyssey. I'm
Yes, but
not entirely sure.
even when they're in the rover and it's cold, they're referencing the Aquarius to Jim.
Well, yeah, because the rover is. I'm sorry, the rover is the Aquarius, right?
Yes. And the ship is the Odyssey. But combined, there is still two separate names. My question is, how does Mission Control know what to talk to Jim and his team about when referencing Odyssey or Aquarius without seeing where they are on the ship?
You give
Oh,
an
they
just go
example
like
in order, like
they just go like Aquarius status on your packs being, removed or something. How do they know they're in the Aquarius at that point?
well because they're the lander is the one providing most of the life support, so they're predominantly spending most of their time in the lander. So
Yes, but it's
I
not just
assume they're just
continuing
making a
the point.
general assumption. Yeah.
So it's all just guesses on like the last
Uh,
task given.
and they have updated equipment, so maybe one room temperature goes up because of body heat, and they're like, okay, they're in this one because the temperature got hotter, or the
But are
oxygen's
they able to
getting
track that?
huh?
They're able to track heat then.
In that example, or maybe the oxygen's going down faster in the other one than opposed to the other one, or some other metric they can measure on their consoles. Like they will probably be able to ascertain people are in the other opposed to the other one. But they don't
Okay.
explicitly
That
show
was
that.
just
That's just me saying something that
I
sounds
know.
like it makes sense to me.
I think to compromise the both, I'm gonna put it a nitpick because there are parts where they like Jim tells Jack to go get like the flight manual or something in the Odyssey. And then Mission Control says, Odyssey, do you have this or yet? But their last talk to Jim was in the Aquarius. Are they guessing that Jim went into the Odyssey to get it and then are talking to Jim as the Odyssey now? Like that if that's all just guessing to line up to be functional of Mission Control talking to them without fully getting details of how they know where someone is located, then I have that as a nitpick.
I'm leaning it's guesswork. That is what I'm leaning towards. Though I think there is a practical way they could do it. They don't establish that way they do it.
they don't. It exists. I'm sure it does, but not in the context of this film. So I'm willing to agree it's a nitpick.
Okay. That is just something for a chunk of this, I couldn't tell if Aquarius was like Jim's code name because they're just like talking and Jim answers. But then I'm like, no, that's the name of the rover to get to it. And I'm like, well, it's not this whole. It was a lot of piecing together things for me, kind of thing. But I just couldn't get that detail sorted out. So
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's fair. And I guess with that, we will move into the final act, which is Houston calling about the CO2 levels to the end of the film.
who do you think
And
the rat was? Sorry, I thought we were just free to go. I was curious, who do you think the rat was at the press to just make this public panic?
I mean, it kind of seemed like Henry or whatever his name was, the one that kept talking to. Oh, well, it's been too long. I already forgot her name. What was her name?
Who, Blanche, Maryland?
Marilyn. There we go. The guy that's been talking to her, he kind of seems like he's trying to build it up. So And we
Yeah,
see
he's
him
trying
in
to
the
bring attention back to the program.
we see him in the control room, so he has access to it. So he's probably the one doing it.
He's probably their press guy.
Oh,
Yeah,
that press guy.
yeah. Well, I mean,
Because
there's
when I
nothing
was on the
necessarily.
news, I'm like, how the news spread like this
Yeah,
from
it's not
like mission control here?
necessarily a classified mission, so I'm fine with them getting that information out. But it does happen pretty quickly.
Yes, but there's no scene of them actually telling the events of what's happening in mission control. It's just them saying we're working on it.
Yeah, because they're locked in. But
Yeah.
I agree. Yeah.
But the news details are so accurate to the problem at hand that I went, this is not a guess. This is them knowing that information. But from the press conference we saw, that was not information given.
Yeah, we get like the CO2 problem, and then we cut to the news talking about a CO2 problem, like immediately after.
Yeah,
So, yeah,
that
it's
matches, but
probably him. Well, I mean, that would show that they
Okay.
immediately got the info from someone because they're not doing it at the press conferences. So, it's probably Henry or.
and it's the 70s. They don't have cell phones. I'm like, what's the fastest way to contact the news network from the press conference?
Let me check my pager.
Quick, fax it over.
They have hard lines. They don't need
Yeah.
cell phones.
So they'd go to the press, get the information, and immediately run to a phone. That room is packed full of press. Who's going to get the phone first?
No clue. Somebody, I guess.
I'll jump to one of my interesting points that was dramatized in the film. In real life, Fred did not tear the bag, the first bag they were using to make the CO2 filter. They had in the film they tore one and had a spare. In real life, he nailed it first try.
Oh,
I don't
adding
like that.
tension.
Yeah, I don't like that. That's not heightening. That's fabricating.
Ooh, I
that
know.
didn't happen.
Ooh, I know. I knew that was good. Yep. I'm like, that's definitely a Crimson thing because, writer, you just gave that they broke historical accuracy.
Yeah, it's one
Yeah,
thing
they
to
did.
heighten, but that's fraudulent. That's just flat out lie.
I think if they focused a little bit more on them trying to do the bag stuff, like if we had more shots of them working on it,
Show the actual work of the bag.
That's
This
true.
movie needs more show than tell. Maybe that's one of my big things with this movie. Everyone's just talking.
I suppose.
Then just
I'm not going to go
show
that
There's a
far,
lot
but
to talk about though.
I would say like if we spent more of that scene with them repairing, making the filter again, as you said, Springs, one of your earlier complaints is we don't know how it works. If we saw them put it fully together, I think we wouldn't need the extra tension. That being said, because we don't, I think I'm okay that they chose to do that, to add that extra just bit of tension in.
Subjectively, I don't like it, but as a film, it's fine for the pacing.
That's very valid, sir. Very valid indeed.
I feel robbed though.
With one little detail.
Yeah, I mean, trust me. Once you get to, if we ever cover like some World War II films properly on this podcast, I'm gonna be in Crimson's shoes because for me, I love space, so I can get over a lot of it. But when it comes to World War II, like accuracy is far more important to me because that's a passion in a different sense.
Yeah, and in a broad speaking way, at least with war films, they're going to be less detailed than this, like record wise, because this literally everything got recorded. There's
I don't know.
several
Edge of
accounts,
Tomorrow has a lot of detail.
so there is a little bit
For a
more
war movie.
play in a World War II movie than something like this.
Yeah.
Generally speaking.
Okay. Good one, Springs.
Yeah. I got a
Good one, Springs.
good one, Springs.
Hey, I'm like, my joke fell flat. Cool.
No,
I
you're
knew
good. You're good. It's in there. That's all that matters. I was gonna say, Crimson, you're a big TV show guy. I get to ask you a TV show question. Did you recognize one of the actors when they're first delivering to Ed Harris the news of their shallowing?
Um, if I had a
Keep in mind,
picture,
being that writers bring it up, it's something writers seen.
I mean, I said I've recognized a lot of people in here. I mean, XCOM or whatever his name was. Was it
Capcom? Yeah, I know Capcom. That's
Capcom?
Brett.
That's it. Not
Brett Cullen. Brett Cullen.
Colin. Yeah.
Something? Yeah,
Do you know
Thomas
him
Wayne in
from?
the Joker movie.
But
I know him from Lost.
Yeah,
He's
it's
a
like
good one.
I can't believe you said
Yeah.
Batman over Lost first. He's Nathan Ingram in Person of Interest. For you guys might have heard that show before.
Person of
throwing
Interest?
it out
I
there.
don't
It's
know.
little known.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I mean, I'll tell you the actor, it's Max Grodenchik. Grodenchik.
Yeah, I don't know.
Max Grodenchik.
No.
Yeah. He plays Rom in Deep Space Nine.
See, I told you it was something writer knew.
Well, something he knew
I
I
know
would
because
probably
Chris
know,
has seen some of it
so.
too. Yeah.
I'd have to see the face again, but I probably recognized him. I recognized a lot of people.
That's very fair. All right. Crimson, jump to a point.
All right. Oh, well, there's the point in my notes where I talked about the breathing not being consistent. That's funny.
Well, you're not, you know.
Consistent, I am. I'll talk about, I guess, the end narration bit of describing where they all ended up. I don't know how I feel about its integration. It kind of just felt shoehorned in and
It's
fell flat for me. Like, all right, we did this. Jack died of cancer after running for Congress or something. You're like, oh, I don't really see why that's really relevant to this movie. Why do I need to know that he just died? But cool. I don't know. I don't think we needed to know what happened to them after this mission, really. Maybe if it's they never flew again, sure, but not every.
I feel like it's an attempt to like. I think Springs mentioned it way earlier in the podcast, but he mentions that it was a bookend for the movie. I definitely get that from this, and it's trying to just give more historical context, being that this is fairly accurate to history. But I do. It does feel off to me.
I feel like
I don't know why.
They just had to talk about.
Actually, you know.
Go ahead.
Yeah, actually, you know what? This is the only acting point from Tom Hanks. I realized because my initial feelings while listening to this was, if this felt like Tom Hanks is being bland when I know he's a good voice actor.
Yeah.
I think this might be my least favorite scene in terms of like Tom Hanks acting for the film, even though it's just his voice, because I feel like he could have put more passion in as the character for this. Because it felt more like just a by the numbers wrap up without any of the character coming through. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Makes sense to me. That's what I've been talking about this whole time.
Yeah, like I said, I don't have that for all the rest of the film, but I definitely felt it here because this one felt odd to me while I first while watching again for the podcast. So not my first watch, but it's been many years.
I feel like they could have kept this narration bit if each of them were pertained to their careers with NASA or space. Reaching out to other things don't feel very necessary. After this, Jack went on to not fly anymore. This was his one and done. He felt fulfilled and was too scared or something. I don't know. But the whole Congress thing was irrelevant. I felt like they had plans for the others because they stayed in the space field, but Jack didn't. So they just felt like, oh, well, we have to give Jack a conclusion. So.
Yeah, that might be the intention behind it, but I feel like either the emotion needed to be stronger here, or I guess you're right. It could be kept more slightly more relevant topics.
What do you think, Sprinks?
As I said, it's kind of the same thing where it's just like what was said was fine, the dialogue written is fine, but it's the expression of the actors is just okay.
Well, I wasn't talking about that. I was talking about
Oh.
what was being said, not the voice
That's my
acting.
take on it. Yeah.
Oh, what was being said I think was fine.
All right. Sprinks got a point, sir.
Yeah, the tube TV, the Maryland is watching the pre-recorded interview with Jim on, really makes Tom Hanks's eyes look like they're in the center of his head to make his forehead look huge.
Okay, you were
Yes.
kind of going with what I was gonna say, where I didn't really get that breakdown, but he just looked old there to me, and yeah, his forehead
I think
looked
it's
big because
hair.
of it, but he just looked old.
Yeah, but Tom Hanks has a normal fine face. That though, with the downward angle of a curved tube TV, makes his eyes look like dead center where his nose should be. It looked really weird.
You have to relook at it, but I definitely remember that forehead.
But yeah. Do you think they got good casting to the people who played Neil Armstrong and Buzz Aldrin?
Um, I I guess they didn't really get much of a focus on their looks. I think Buzz looked okay. Neil, I didn't even really get a good look at his face.
I don't know. I think they're very middle ground for me. I did not see the guy depicting Neil Armstrong and go, "That's Neil Armstrong." I just said, "That's a guy playing Neil Armstrong."
What do you think about Buzz? Or did you not really know what Buzz looks like?
In my head, I can't even come up with what Buzz Aldrin looks like in my head. So
Okay, so
that
not
went
a
right
Sorry,
over.
thinking the rest of the world.
Sorry, but Neil Armstrong, it's like I know what he looks like. That guy was just a guy playing him, kind of thing. So this is not the casting they did in League of Their Own.
No, top tier.
Definitely not.
That's top. Yeah, that is top of the top.
Creme de la
The
creme.
tip of the tip.
That still blows my mind.
Yeah.
Sorry, it's just every time I think about it, I'm like, that is insane. Those are not the two actresses throughout the movie. Those are two completely new people.
Yep.
Yeah. Extremely relevant to what they did for that. It's really good for what they did in that film. Another bit of piece of tension that we didn't really need because nothing comes of it. I'm sure it was accurate to history. I think it was. I have no idea. But they got a typhoon warning about where they were supposed to land. Nothing really happens with that.
That's right.
Just more tension.
Yeah, that was something that bugged me that didn't come into play whatsoever.
But then again, is that also historical accurate?
It's hard to
looking
say
it up
now.
right
I
now.
know that they're
Who
just
said?
willing to screw it up, ripping a bag.
Well, yeah. If they can screw up one thing, they have every right to screw up as much as they want. Then.
Yeah, they've been proven to be liars to me.
Yep.
Oh yeah, no, okay, that's true. A tropical storm named Helen was present and forecast to move across the original Apollo 13 landing area in the Pacific
Okay,
Ocean.
they use that for a historical accurate reference.
Thumbs up.
All right. Well, then
And that it did nothing else other than being there. It's like the wedding ring.
What I need, is a conclusion to it. So I need somebody after landing wow, you don't know what you guys just missed.
Or let's get out of here. It's going to be arriving soon.
Some acknowledgement that there was a typhoon coming.
There's no payoffs.
Or anything.
It was projected. I don't know if let me see. I'm gonna track this down now.
I mean, even if it's projected, they're like, you know, it could have been worse. Someone could have done a joke like that.
The weather system moved out of the area just in time.
Yeah, so
So
they could say
you
just missed it.
You just missed the storm. That would have been the line, pretty much.
Yeah. So not a fan. Not a fan of how they have it currently.
Definitely could have added some closure to it. So it was a nice historical reference, but needed to add closure to it because it is a film. So they added a problem that they didn't address.
Ryder, I like to ask a clarification question on historical accuracy to a problem that could have been fictitious for the film.
Uh,
Was them coming out of blackout from their descent to Earth to the land of the ocean more than a minute of offset time?
so
That looks like
I
a
actually
big problem on mission control.
okay. So I actually have a thing about this. The average for Apollo astronauts when you're coming in, the blackout is about 2 to 3 minutes. Um, in history, Apollo 13 got one of the longest blackouts for their reentry. It was almost 6 minutes.
So they shortened it for the movie
They shortened it for the
because
movie.
it played off at like a little over 4 minutes.
Yeah.
Yes, it was 3 minutes arrival time that they thought, and then it was over a minute, so it was somewhere within the 4 minute range when they arrived.
Yes. It was, but in real history, it was closer to 6 minutes.
Oh, they should have
Um,
stuck to the 6 minutes. Add
it
real
would have
fear
been
to Maryland and mission control and everything.
that's how I would have done it personally. And obviously, the next movie moment that wasn't true is obviously the cameras landing on them doing the parachute the second they reestablish contact. That's
Oh yeah,
obviously
That
was
was
not
that's a
accurate to
terrible.
moment.
history.
That was really
Yeah,
bad. They just
Where are they?
magically
There they are.
appeared.
Yeah.
yeah. That's definitely them just trying to speed the movie along. They would have reestablished comms before they got a camera on it. I know they
So in
wanted the thing, but
that ending was rushed.
It was. Somehow they
I'm willing
managed
Didn't
to
to
need
agree
to
with
rush
be.
it.
that. Yeah.
Yeah, I hated how they did the parachute thing because it literally just like blipped in. It just appeared there essentially. It didn't fall out of the clouds. They didn't like pan the camera to it like, oh, we thought it was going to be over there. It's over there. It just kind of blips on the screen, which is very just lazy.
Uh, yeah.
Um, One of you brought up like what you thought was funny comical thing. I think it was you, Crimson, with the mom, with Jim's mom, Blanche.
That would be me, actually.
That was you, Ryder. Sorry, that was you.
Yeah.
I think the funniest thing to me that was not supposed to be funny. I think it was just over the top, like pushing over the top that I found it comical was kind of the slow mo shot of them breaching the atmosphere and the condensation coming off the console. It's like a rainforest.
And now they're soaked when they open the
Yeah.
pod.
That makes sense. It got real hot that they're sweating and soaked. That's okay. But just like the
Yeah.
condensation built up, just pouring off like a shower head on it. I'm
Yeah,
like,
that
that
was
is funny.
there was definitely a real version of that happened in reality, but obviously they definitely I think added an extra bucket or two for the
Yeah, good
purposes of
shot.
the film. Yeah.
I like the shot of it, but it's a little too much.
The amount is the problem, not the intention.
Yeah. I got the timestamp: 2 hours, 5 minutes, and 57 seconds.
Yeah, I kind of talked about it earlier, but I think the heat shield looked pretty good. Considering a lot of the movement CG in this looks pretty bad. I think that was probably the best looking movement CG.
Sure, sure.
Dated. I would say dated, guys.
You know,
It's not
yeah, dated.
terrible for
I like that, dated.
it's not terrible for the time. It was dated.
30 years
Something
ago.
they do. Geez, Louise, 31 years ago. Something they do that I like is to add, I guess, more movement in the film and more tension. Is everyone standing still, like breathing, calm, or like tension rise kind of thing in Mission Control, but the camera swoops down over everyone being still. So rather than people panicking and moving and everything or pacing around, it's the camera that's doing the movement. So I thought that was like a good kind of switch.
I would agree with that because again, it's the NASA people being professionals, but the camera is the one that's creating the tension. So I actually also enjoy that.
Also, 1 hour 53:24. I think when they're about to descend in the rover, in the I think the James Horner score right there, like the tension rides, really sounded like something out of Avatar.
Yeah, you can definitely feel the music rising and swelling.
Got none of it. I don't remember it at all.
Yeah.
Wow, the music really didn't leave an
It
impact on
was
you.
so forgettable
Yeah.
and bland.
I remember,
I don't
I
know.
remember
It
only
sounded like James Horner to me.
well, I
Maybe it's
have to
because it
remember
didn't
a
pop up at the
song.
beginning. I'm like, got it, recognized. I'll be listening. Maybe
People,
that triggered
really
it, but
good people can make boring stuff, just because they made it
yeah, they
doesn't
can.
mean it's good.
No,
Or
but I
stand
think
out,
he
I
did a
mean.
good
Okay.
score for this movie. James Horner's score for Apollo 13 is better than the acting in it.
I
I'm
disagree.
not gonna go that far,
Yeah.
but I will go with that. It's a serviceable score. Um, let's see. What else is there? Uh, Crimson, you got another point you want to jump to? Or
Sure
I
thing.
can go, I guess.
Yeah, I can go. So Ken does not have the measles. I kind of liked that he looked over it. I would imagine the doctor
The
or
doctor, yeah.
whoever. Uh, that was kind of a fun moment. I did not pick up that that's what Jim was talking about when he said, "Did the flowers bloom?" or whatever he said. Um, but Ken picked it up,
Yeah.
referencing to the measles, and it was pretty amusing. And I'm glad they acknowledged it, and it wasn't something passed on or forgotten. That he
'Cause I
got
mean,
screwed over because of
I'm
it.
sure, yeah. Like I'm sure Jim feels terrible about it, but ultimately Ken is responsible for saving their lives. So they can't be petty. Neither of
Yeah.
them really can.
Could
I do
Jack
like
have
it though.
saved them? Who knows? Probably not. Because Ken was kind of framed as like the best.
The best person with this particular ship.
Yeah.
Yep, yep, yep. Looking at my notes, being that we've touched on things which we usually do in acts, like examples, things in the last act to what we're talking about in the first act kind of thing. I think I only have one left.
I'm not sure I'm down to that many, but I can shorten this. How many you got left? Would you guess,
I've
Crimson?
got a few left.
Yeah, I got a couple left. So why don't you lead off, Crimson, and then I'll go, then you'll go, and then we'll do one last round of all three of us.
All right. Sounds like a plan. Nice little detail was Jim taking the pilot seat instead of Jack, and Jack looking at him like, "Oh, did I do a bad? Am I in the doghouse? Did I lose pilot privileges? Oh." And then Jim realizing, "Oh,
It's a little funny,
whoopsies, whoopsies, muscle memory didn't mean for you to feel like you're in the doghouse. Let's swap places." Quick little interaction.
and it's
My
also
description was longer than the actual scene, but
yeah.
Very true.
I did
Yeah,
like it.
I will also add a little bit more to that because it's not really relevant to this story unless you know the history behind it. But Jim flew the crew on Apollo 8, so he was sitting in the pilot seat in an earlier mission.
Mm. Yeah, because we knew he
But
was
that
on the
movie
mission.
wasn't. That idea wasn't important enough to be a movie.
No.
Yeah, well, he flew the mission, and he also didn't, but he didn't go onto the moon, obviously.
Was that Act 2? That might have been Act 2. It was Act 2. The Mount. Why am I blanking on it?
Maryland.
Maryland. Maryland is on her knees. That's a song.
Whoa.
Mount Maryland.
Oh boy, oh my.
Carolina.
I hope it's a song.
Red versus Blue. The Freelancers song. I forgot what it's called. Red and White
Oh
or something.
yeah.
Oh. Yeah.
Yeah. Good song. Anyhow, the Mount Maryland part I liked, but also was like, come on, Jim, enjoy the moment. I know it's little sour grapes you missed out, but you could at least indulge
I
John. Oh, wait, John? Not John, Fred.
Fred and Jack.
Jack,
Fred. I don't know why I
Jack
thought
and
John.
Fred.
They're generic names, okay?
They
Fred.
are.
Indulge Fred, because Fred was
Those
happy.
are real names. Those are real people.
Fred was very in the moment and happy, and then Jim was like, "No, I've already seen it before," and then instantly, Fred's face went, "Oh, well, this moment got ruined. Thanks, Jim." He could have
Yeah,
indulged a little bit.
I think he could have indulged a little bit. The thing I do like about the scene though is he lets the two of them get a look because he already got that look that they're getting. You know.
Yeah, I do like that he
Yeah.
prioritized their view first. He's a little Debbie
Yes.
I don't.
Downer.
But I agree. He could have been less of a Debbie Downer.
Okay, I don't want to get too far away from what Crimson said here. Debbie Downer, totally get. Is sour grapes a modern term? I feel so old. Do
Sour.
people say that anymore?
I've used it, but I've been told to have an old soul, so I haven't heard really anyone say it.
Okay. Mike, is the movie taking effect on you?
No.
Quite possibly.
I just know
Uh,
Crimson's a big advocate for the 90s.
Yeah. All right. I'll
Great
jump
times.
to one of my points, which is more of a question.
No,
How
I
do
would
we
not want to be
think
an
of all
astronaut.
the?
Good question.
Yeah. I mean, I would give anything. I'm just not skilled enough. But my question is, we get a bunch of rapid fire payoffs here at the end, with between Ken and Jack, between Jack and Fred, um, between Jim and Fred. Jim, being leader of the team and stuff like that. So we get a few rapid fire character payoffs. So what do you guys think of those?
You can go first.
I guess
Max.
both within the context of the film and then within the context of history, because I know Crimson's probably going to want to make the distinction.
They're fine. I didn't really see them as like, it's not Top Gun with Iceman being like, "I'll be your wingman anytime."
Yeah,
It didn't get that feeling at all.
didn't need to do that level
It didn't
because
need to, but they're just fine. Like, it's like the ending of the movie. It didn't seem quite memorable. I mean, the most one is like just Ken being, "I didn't get the measles." That's, I think, the biggest one, but they're all just
okay,
happy they survived. Yay.
yeah, thumbs up. I don't have. I'll go next. I don't have any objective issue with it. I think I would like a bit more between Fred and Jack interacting on the ship for the payoff to be a little bit more meaningful. So you get that nod of him saying you did good or that whatever that would hit a little bit more. Because I obviously I don't need the Iceman. You be my weenie at any time because pilots are fighter pilots are some of the most jacked up, overhyped people you'd ever meet, because that is accurate. But
Especially when one of them's Tom Cruise.
yeah. And so I don't necessarily need that, but I think I would like a little bit more between Jack and Fred to kind of strengthen their payoff a little bit. I think Ken's with everybody was good. Like the measles talk, and then Jack saying "Wish you were here to see it," and then him going, "Yeah, I bet you were, bet you are." I think that those are some good bits.
Okay, yeah, it kind of touches on what I said my bigger issue with the film was, and that is the group dynamic here. I think Jack never felt like part of the team to me the entire film. He always just felt he was in the background. You get plenty of Jim and of
Fred.
I just lost my page. Yeah, of Jim and Fred. Um, Plenty of interactions with them. They're longtime pals. It makes sense. But because so much time is dedicated to those two talking to each other, Jack just gets sidelined. Like, Jack and Jim barely have any interactions outside of just doing orders, like doing tasks. They don't really have much one on one meaningful stuff. Um, Jack and Fred kind of had a setup of they were going to butt heads, but we had the one argument, and past that, that's it. It it was just very half baked. I feel my whole explanation in the beginning was it's a sacrifice because it's supposed to be a realistic depiction of real events, but they had to dramatize it. So I do think that is why it's not well implemented personally, because they had to shoehorn it in when they could.
Yeah, I think they could have done. Yeah, they could have done it better for sure. That's why it's. I find it weak to just neutral on it. I think it's passable, but I'm not as far down the line as you are, Crimson. I think with it, but I think Jack is definitely missing interactions with the rest of the crew. I do like the bit where he rips off the no tape and Jim asks what it is, and he's like, "Oh yeah, I was getting punchy and I didn't want to accidentally eject the ship." It's very human, but obviously I don't think that would ever happen.
Probably not. I mean, I feel like Gene had better connections with the control people than Jack with Jim and Fred. That's where the level I'm at, which is unfortunate because I don't think that's the way they intended to be.
Yeah, I don't think I'm that far, but I see where you're coming from because Gene has definitely more animated interactions with at least the people who contribute things heavily to mission control. So you have the mayor's helper from the Grinch, like he contributes, so he has a lot of stuff with Gene. Then you have Gene's scene with the power guy before the power guy goes off to work with Ken, and then you have Gene interacting with. Yeah, Gene gets around. Um, and I guess back to you, Crimson, for your second point.
Okay. On the burn, the final correction, I guess. I'm curious, writer. I don't know if you came across it or not. Was it Jim's idea to use Earth as an anchor point, or was it Control's idea? Because now I feel on edge, where I'm like, oh, it probably wasn't Jim. They probably just did that because he's the main man of the movie. So now I'm questioning everything. So I have that
I'm
question.
gonna look that up.
But while you're doing that, I do like the burn scene, other than just the visuals of it taking off. Um, it's cool doing a space film where all options are pretty much out the window. You are very limited. They have no navigation. They have to do it by eye, and the ship's thrusters are going haywire. It's uncontrollable. It felt intense. Obviously, I knew they were going to make it. I know Apollo 13. It was, I think, well executed. The burn.
Do you want to give your thoughts, Sprinks, before I answer Crimson's question?
Well, I assumed they were going to make it because I, again, didn't know if this was fully a historical thing until a point in the film. But being a film, I'm like, they're not going to die. That would be kind of a sad ending. So I don't know. The tension shown across was good. Output of like the burning up and we'll get this done and everyone on land, but that's about it. As you said, to me, it looked dated.
The burn, I think, looked the last burn, not reentry. I also think it's a very tense scene. I think it did a good job. It does look dated, but again, I think it does a good job. To answer your question, Crimson, the most I'm getting right now is that it was a collaborative effort, which it sort of was in the film.
Okay, it's broad enough to where it's not going to bug me, but it also sounds like it probably wasn't him. But
Because
good
they
enough for
definitely
me.
did manual. It was definitely them using the manual maneuvering. They definitely did use Earth as a visual reference. So yeah, reading through this, it says the strategy and calculations were developed by everybody involved. So it was both Houston and Jim. So they might have had Jim suggest it because he is the main character, but it doesn't necessarily break with history. All right. My final point was I think the last bit between is like, "Sir, we're still coming in shallow," and she's like, "Should we tell him?" And Gene's like, "It's no point in it now." I did like that Gene just acknowledging that this is either going to work or it's not at that point.
Yeah, I like Gene.
Yeah.
Gene's my favorite character in this, or I guess person, since it's based off of person. Um,
Yeah,
he's just cool.
I'm probably in agreement. Gene is also my favorite character, I think, or person.
I like how pragmatic he is. He feels real. He's got passion behind the job. He's not afraid to hurt some feelings to get to the point. Pretty awesome.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
You're on the fence.
Do you have
Well,
a favorite character, or
I think my favorite character is Jim in the movie.
fair enough? I mean,
Yeah.
that's
I'm trying to differ out character of what the character is versus the expression on screen. So,
yeah.
because Gene to me doesn't
I,
have
I,
much character other than like get them home, complete the mission.
that's true. All right. Crimson, your final point.
All right. I guess it's to piggyback off an old point I made with the cold not having stakes. Something they did do good, for an example of the stakes, is the reentry angle. Initially, it was a little confusing uh, what they were describing, but they did the stupid, dumbed down version of with the news. So where I finally understood what they were talking about. Or if it was too steep, they would go in too fast. If it was too shallow of an angle, they would skip off the atmosphere and just go out into space. And it was a what was it, 2.5% wide margin for success. And at that point, they needed to do it manually. So I think they did a good job with the stakes and defining that, opposed to the freezing temperatures.
Fair enough. And Sprinks, your final point, sir.
My final point, which I think would have been a cool fact, unless Ryder, you really sweep my leg and you tell me it is real, is at the end when Jim is back and they're narrating and like everyone's congratulating them as they're getting out of the, I guess, chopper and shaking hands. The guy that Jim shakes his hand with, like the old, I guess, soldier or corporal or whatever in the white uniform, the old man, I think it would have been so cool if that's the actual Jim.
That
Who went on
is
a
the
Yeah,
actual Jim.
Ryder, I was about to say, you want to say that?
Yes.
Yeah, that is the actual Jim.
Yes.
He was offered to be an admiral, but he said he retired a captain, so he'll be in his captain's uniform.
Oh my gosh, I'm like, they do Jim shaking hands with like one guy. I'm like, this one old guy's, please tell me that's the real Jim. Ha
Yep, that is something I was holding off till the very end.
Awesome.
And I guess with that, any final remembering points before we switch over to summary and ratings?
Yeah, I do. The reveal of the damage that the ship took from the oxygen tank.
Oh, that's a good shot. Yeah, okay.
Yeah, none of us talked about it, and I think that was pretty cool that they got to see it and that it was smart for Fred to record it, so it wasn't just purely off the description of what Jim was relaying.
Mhm.
And you can kind of see it on their faces that they knew they were in trouble, but they didn't realize how bad the damage was, and the
Yeah.
kind of level of shock of, wow, we survived that.
Well, especially after
Yeah.
they came off of what engine 5 not working, and then mission control's
Yeah.
like, oh, it's totally fine. like they've already gone through one fluke so far, and Jim's like, well,
Like that
that's
was
our
that
first,
was
like,
a glitch for the
yeah,
mission.
that
Yeah.
was our glitch kind of thing. So that builds up to like this next one, not knowing how severe when the last one wasn't super severe. So I guess that helps that,
Yeah.
at least onto the 3 astronauts.
Hmm. So I did like how they did that.
I guess one last thing I did like was the interior shot of when Jack is like testing the O2 level, and it goes like showing the pipes in how like it erupts the oxygen tank. I think that like tracking through with
Yeah,
all the
that's
wires and
another
everything was pretty cool.
yeah, the
So it
power
doesn't
that's
just
about
click
to
it and it
yeah.
happens. We actually see where it went wrong. So
Hmm.
Yeah. I agree with that. Good final points, gentlemen. And I guess with that, we shall move into summary and ratings. Starting with Brinks.
no boy, how could I figure? Because I feel like I've said some interesting things on this one. Um, Let me start with my objective of this movie. Biggest praise I will give this movie, which I've already touched on, is the look. Ron Howard knows how to make things look the way you want them to look, and boy, he achieved that. This looks like the '60s. I don't know what it was with the camera work. I don't know if it was the camera itself or something in the editing team, but unless it's not, and it's just the hair and the makeup and the clothes and the background and everything, every shot of Maryland looked like it was filmed in 1960, but everyone else didn't really. Like something on Tom Hanks of Jim looked like it was made in the '90s and everything else, but just her really stand out. That was great. I don't know what it was about that, but that looked really good. Um, I think all the acting's okay, and no one does a bad job at acting. Not even the kids. I think the kids do what they're supposed to do in their roles. Um, no one does a bad job. However, no one does a great job in my eyes. I don't think anyone is a fantastic actor in this movie. Let me
Good
state that
asterisks
because
there.
these are good actors.
Yeah.
Um,
Good asterisks, yeah.
yes, Ed Harris to me is the best actor in this movie with what is given and what he portrays. Um, I think there's very good camera shots in this movie with the cinematography. A lot of movement, which is nice because everyone's kind of stagnant, either sitting or standing in mission control or something like. The characters aren't being frantic, so the camera takes that tension of like the eyes of the audience to build into the tension of the events happening in world of the movie, and I think that's very smart to work with that to give unease onto the audience watching it. So smart with that without breaking kind of like in world like hysteria of like, oh, that's unrealistic based off a historical event. The movie is very slow burn. I don't necessarily think this is bad pacing. Definitely just for me, like the whole first hour is really just build up of the characters to the mission. And I think it could have been edited better. I think that's where my fluke is with it is the editing. Because it's not paced bad, it's just very slow. And then once we get the launch and set off, then we have like situation and a problem solve and a new situation, and like everything to get them back home, and that all goes real well. But the first half hour chunk does feel a little off comparatively to the rest of the film, which is over 2 hours. So it does kind of stand out a little as like the hook. Um, I think James Horner did an amazing score. It sounds like James Horner. It plays. It doesn't sound off in the parts where it is played. Um, I think he really worked with the film. I know films do this all the time of like score made first and then they incorporate it into the film. Was the film made first and the composer has to match the score to what he's seeing or what they're seeing? Sorry, or it's in tandem, which is probably the best way of doing it when the director and composer work together with the scriptwriter of the scenes and everything, and they make the music together, cooperatively. That's the word I'm looking for. That I do not know, but I do think the music very well fits and might be the one of the greatest things about this movie. Um, and dated CGI. The CGI is not the greatest, but today's standards, I'm trying to think of like CGI before 1995 that comparatively to this looked good, and more distinctly Universal movie since that was the production company behind this, but nothing's coming to mind unfortunately. But I do think it's dated looking. Um, all of that, of course, I always forget something. I think the writing's very good. I think it's finely written. Like the depiction of what would happen, how much of it was historical accurate, can't tell. But we do know from writer that some things are victoriously made. I don't know if victoriously is a real word, but fictitiously. There
There
we
you
go.
go.
Yeah.
Made. Yeah. Overall, I have this at a 7.5. I think it's very well made for what it's depicting, but there are things that could have made it better. But it's not a bad film at all, in my eyes. Um, Subjectively, I think it's really just be the acting because everyone kind of just feels very stoic in the movie, like almost every character. And I get that's what is being portrayed. Like everyone needs a calm of mind in a dangerous situation at hand. So there is no panic. But I don't know. Space isn't necessarily my big like go to like interest. And that's very just personal onto me, I suppose. So subjectively, I give this a 6, just beating out like my middle ground thing because I think it's still fine. Um, but I fear on a rewatch, knowing now the whole movie, it might be lowered.
Interesting. All right. Eeny, miny, me. I'll go next.
All right.
Yeah. Save Crimson for last. I'll do my objective first because my objective was interesting upon finishing the movie. When I finished the movie, it was at a solid 9.5. Uh, Purely on the writing stuff. I'm since then, and since over the course of since then it had dropped, and then obviously over the podcast, I think it's settled now where I'm settling on. I'm settled on 8.5 objectively. I think the world building is fantastic. They do a great job of establishing the stakes within the context of the world. Um, they do a good job of explaining the problems multiple times so that the audience can understand it, even if they're not as familiar with space jargon. So if you weren't following the higher level dialogue with the technical stuff, you have the newsreel breaking down some of the more basically for people to understand the stakes. That's very important to do, and it makes the world building very easy to track because a lot of the stakes in this film are very facilitated by the world building. The astronauts mostly come across as very competent. I don't feel like the sense of professionalism is breached outside of what'll be character nitpicks that'll come at the back end of my review, my summary. Um, and uh, as Spring said, they did a very good job capturing the time period. Very important for world building in a historical film. The plot, I don't feel as strongly as Sprinks does, but I definitely feel a sense of convenience here and there. There are some scenes that are missing. I would say there's definitely a scene missing for Jim between being told he has to replace a team and then him telling Ken that he's being replaced. It makes sense in care for the character of Jim, but there's definitely a scene missing there for us to track Jim volunteering. No, I'm the leader. I'll do this, because it is a bit of a jump. Um, so there's scenes like that. We've talked about uh some scenes that are weak or could be cut for the sake of fluff. And we could talk about scenes that are also related to kind of the whole superstition into Apollo 13 is definitely falls into more of the plot elements because it's mostly conveniences that are going wrong that don't fully affect the story. There's the payoff with the ring that's missing, and I'll say I won't go too deep into that. I'll leave that for Crimson potentially. Characters, I think, are mostly good for the film. I do have some nitpicks with Jack. Once he's on the flight, doesn't get his interactions enough with the characters around him to make the payoffs more meaningful. We have some stuff with Ken that's missing in the first hour, which makes the separation, the breakup of the OG team feel a little less impactful. And I think with Jim, I think Jim is a very solid character. I don't think I have anything necessarily to complain about with him. Marilyn is good. Gene walked away being my favorite character. I think he comes across as a very competent director and scientist, so he's not just directing all the chaos of all these super intelligent NASA scientists working on these problems, but he's also helping work through them as well. And I think every character, each sort of division in NASA kind of has their moment to shine. You have the CO2 problem solvers. You have Ken working with the amphimeter problems with one of the other characters that's introduced in scenes with Gene. So I think they do make a good job of everybody feeling competent and professional most for the majority of the film. Again, with some nitpicks in that it can damage the characters a little bit in the film. So I'm at an objective 8.5. Subjectively, I love space. I love this film more as an adult than I did as a kid. Because I think I probably found it boring as a kid. I enjoy this a lot more because I understand a lot of the technical jargon. I understand a lot of the sciencey stuff. So, as Crimson says, it makes you feel smart if you're following along. And I definitely was able to follow along a little as an adult, and I appreciated that growth in myself. That being said, the movie I was constantly comparing this to is The Martian. I do think I still find The Martian more entertaining, and it's a lot more free because they're not necessarily constrained to historically accurate events, and they don't have to invent drama for certain things to play out. Because definitely the drama is heightened perhaps a little too much in parts of this movie. So The Martian is definitely higher. That helped me orient this on my subjective list. I think I'm at a bounce between 7.5 and 8. I think I'm going to settle on an 8. But yeah, I definitely love the film. And that leaves you, Crimson.
Little old me. All right. So I will start with my subjective. I like my space stuff. Usually sci-fi oriented, not necessarily grounded like this. So I did find it not on the boring side. It's kind of more what Spring said of like the first hour range of the build-up was a little slow, but once we got to the incidents that kept happening and then it was rolling, then I was more engaged. But it was a slow burn start to this. Then I got more engaged. The characters / people, uh, none of them really grabbed my attention except for Gene. The trio didn't really feel any chemistry between the three of them. I felt it with Jim and that's all I just talked about him. Ken.
Fred,
Ken.
Oh, Ken.
Jim and Ken. I actually felt a connection there, chemistry. So it was a little unfortunate that they got separated pretty early in the film. So there wasn't a lot connecting me to it outside just the intensity of everything going on and the techno babble and the interest in space stuff. There was a couple humorous moments, but overall, it's a fine movie. It's a 6.45 because I don't want it to round up to 7. So that's where I'm at.
Excuse me, one more time?
Yeah, a 6.45. So it gets
6.5.
So it's 6.5. Yeah, gotcha.
That's a 6.5.
Uh-huh. So objectively, this one it's an iffy one. Because the only other movie that comes to mind that we've covered on the podcast to this is Still Alice. I think that's the only other movie we've done that's like based on something, at least that I can recall.
That's realistically based on something.
I mean, sure, I suppose.
I mean, Before We Go was pretty
that's not
realistic.
based on anything. That's a fiction story. These are both based on real events. Still Alice in this. So it's hard do I judge it off the movie or what the movie's built off of? Because it's supposed to be based off of something. And that's the hard part for me.
I mean, if it's easier, you can throw
'Cause-
in an adaptation rating, but
It's a little bit different than adaptation to me. Because I've been firmly on the grounds where I don't like taking outside information and implementing it into the movie because it's outside information. This movie is supposed to be built on that outside information. It's not the outside information adds to the film. This film is that outside information. So that's the hard part. I think I will separate it. I think I'll base it purely off the movie. So any historical inaccuracies will not be applied. That is where my stance is. As the film is, the ring and the car is fluff. Not good. Get rid of it. There was no payoff to it. The typhoon, no payoff. Get rid of it. Not everything needs to be represented that's based off of something. I mean, look at Harry Potter. Where's all the elf rebellion stuff with Hermione? They cut it because we don't need it. Same here. We don't need these things as they are represented at the moment. I said very in depth my view of the characters and their interactions with each other. Generally, they're kind of weak because they had to manufacture drama that when there was none. I think the visual effects for 95 is average to good. A lot of the like stationary stuff through space looked really good. I think the heat shield moment looked good. Part of the launch looked good, part of it didn't look good. So it's kind of a mixed bag of average to good to me. I think all the actors did good. I'll agree none of them were great, but they were good. I think Sprinks was correct about how the entire film just feels like it's from 60s, 70s era and how perfectly implemented it was. I only found one lighting issue, and that was with her eyeball in the beginning, and that's freaking nothing minute. I'm just rambling. I feel like you guys said a lot of the major parts, so I'm ending with an objective 8. I think there's a lot good here. Most of the bad would be the characters and their interactions. Obviously, the world building. It's a real world. There's not a lot of fantasy to it. Other than the reverse fire from the launch, which still doesn't make any sense.
That didn't make any sense, no.
No,
No, it doesn't.
that would be the fantasy element. Everything else is pretty grounded because it actually happened for the most part. So that is my rating.
All right. Well then, gentlemen, any final thoughts, or shall I read us out?
All I can give is that this movie was Tom Hanks's 22nd. Whatever comes out next week will be after his 22nd.
Yeah.
That's all I'll give.
So true. All righty. Thank you, audience, for listening, whether it be Spotify, Amazon, Castbox, Good Pods, iHeartRadio, Pocket Cast, and Samsung. And if it be in our visual side of things, be it YouTube or Rumble, please feel free to like, comment, subscribe everywhere. Tell us how much you hate our opinions or how much you love them. And as always, I've been a geeky writer.
I'm Crimson Maroon.
And I'm Springs.
And we will catch you next time. Later, everybody.
Bye.
Hello.